Committee of the Whole special meeting for Monday, November 21st, 2021. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Present, we have Deputy Mayor Guinevere Depot, Councilor Lisa McCabe, Councilor Christine Piazza, Councilor Stephen Sheffield, Finance Director Ron Uhas, City Clerk Megan Peters, and Mayor Keith Hedrick. Excuses Councilor Paul Norris.
Thank you. All right, the first item is 773 Parks and Recreation Memorial Bench for Robert J. Golden II. This is for Memorial Bench at Griswold Point. Our beach locations are all filled, so now we're moving to other locations within the city. And this is an area that we're looking to start putting more benches. We do have benches already down there, but that's what this is. That's what this recommendation is. And it's been through the Parks and Rec Committee. And it's recommended. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of, what's
December 6th.
December 6th? Okay. Thank you. Of December 6th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, the next one is 800 Sanitation Vehicle. I have, excuse me, Bill Robards, Public Works Director here. Bill, if you could take the microphone and then talk to council through this.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, good evening. I'm here tonight to speak about the sanitation fleet and the opportunity that we have to purchase a new vehicle for it. Current status, we pick up solid waste 5 days a week. We pick up recycling 4 days a week. And then we also pick up bulky waste 1 day a week. That's usually the day off between the recycling, okay? We have 4 trucks in the fleet. 3 of them primarily used for solid waste, and then the 4th truck to be used primarily for recyclables. The oldest truck that we have in the fleet is, actually the newest truck is a 2015. The second truck is a 2012, that's the one that we use for recycling. And the 2 older ones are a 2004 and a 2007 model, okay? The 2 older ones, we're beginning to get into issues where we're running into reliability. The availability of parts are becoming more difficult to find, and we're looking to replace one of the 2 older trucks. Labor costs for the fleet have been, just a quick year look at it, has been, labor's been about $7,000, and that equates to 5 weeks labor for my mechanic. I have 1 mechanic working on the trucks. Material and contracted services have been at $22,000 annually. If one of the trucks fails, we use the 4th. So, for example, recycling, we're just finishing up with the holidays. We needed a 2nd truck out. We'll grab the 4th truck out and we'll use that. So, a good example, last week we had all 4 trucks running full time to gather up all of the solid waste and recycling. Okay. On holidays, again, we use the whole fleet. So we'll always need 4 trucks in the fleet. I'd like to replace one of the older ones. I have a proposal from Freightliner out of Hartford for $294,846.04. Freightliner of Hartford is on the state bid list. The truck is on the state bid list. We believe that we had the best price. We had some difficulty just even locating vehicles, so the timing was right. We'd been looking to try to get vehicles in here for test rides, and we were fortunate enough to get an opportunity with Freightliner. Okay, the plan would then be to get rid of one of the older trucks. So they did propose a price to purchase one of our older trucks. And I'm going to get together with finance, and we're going to determine whether or not we're going to move forward with, accepting the trade-in, or that we're going to put it out to auction. Okay, so that's something that we're going to resolve this coming week. Okay, some notes on a new truck. It is a rear loader, semi-automatic truck, and what I mean by that is it's a rear packer, everything goes into the back. Semi-automatic trucks, what we mean by that is that you utilize staff to take the container from the driveway or the sidewalk by hand. You get to the truck, and if we have the toter-style containers, we can then use the automatic system on the back of the truck so the mechanics do not have to, the technicians don't have to physically lift the barrels. So that works solely when we have the toter-style barrels. If we were to look at what we have in the city, it's probably about a 30 to 40% mix where we have toter-style barrels that were purchased from us or Lowe's or whatever, and then the remaining barrels are other styles that we physically have to lift, okay? We did speak to a couple of neighboring communities. I spoke to the Public Works Director of New London. New London had some experience using the fully automatic trucks. And that was what I was interested in, you know, are these things really practical for what we have in the city? Now, the fully automatic ones, they're often called the one-arm bandits. I don't know if you've seen them or not, but the benefit to them is you just need a driver, and you don't need to physically lift. But there's some constraints when you use those trucks, right? So, so a good example is New London, right? So he complained about, I have a lot of on-street parking, and he had errors with, you know, the barrels not being able to be reached. You need to have at least 4-foot clearance between cars. So we had some vehicles that were hit. One of the other things that he talked about was, you know, so with that particular truck, the fully automatic, you need to have all toters. So we don't have that either. So we would be looking at either providing or selling toters to the whole community. And it's quite an endeavor to do that. Another constraint with those trucks, they load from one side. Now, we have some, you know, so New London as well has some one-way streets. We also have 4 in our community. So they were having problems with having to have a person ride on the back, grab the barrels and move them over to the right side of the truck anyway, so it really didn't work out that well. They tried them for about a year before he got rid of them. Another thing that they require, you know, they needed to have another truck set up to pick up dumpsters. We take a lot of dumpsters. So for us, you know, and looking at all of the research, you know, that we could come up with, I believe the semi-automatic truck was the best design for what we have to go with. You know, we pick up dumpsters across the city, you know, and we've got a multitude of barrels and collections that we take. It really didn't work for us.
Yeah, knowing the cost of the trucks, knowing that this is a long-term investment, I asked Bill to take a look at how do we collect waste and recycles, and talk to the surrounding towns, see if we can get best practices from them, see what works, see what doesn't work. And in the case of New London, they tried some things, and they actually bought trucks and they turned the trucks back in because it didn't work for them. So Bill came to me and said, this appears to be the best solution for us at this point right now, and that's why we're bringing it to you.
And this particular truck would mimic what we have existing right now.
Right, Councilor Carter.
Yep.
I came in late. I apologize. I like your beard, by the way. Sorry,
Thank you, I'm saving it for later, next month.
good job. Just speaking from experience, some of you guys know that I spent a couple college years on the back of the truck, garbage trucks. It was like the best time of my life. I always say that.
Yep.
Toot, right? But one of the good things is that when we were on back of the trucks, as the carriers or whatever, I forget what we call them, our residents, they'd come out and speak with us and talk to us. The kids would like to come out. They came out and gave us waters and whatnot, sure. You know, so the interaction and all that stuff, it's good that it continue on. With the whole driving thing and not coming, it's kind of like, you know, bye-bye, Mr. City Highwayman, you know? So I like this all around.
And it does give you that personal touch, and that is one thing that the city does provide. It's in your tax base that other places don't provide. So, and the funding for this was in this year's budget. We had money last year, and then we put some money in this year in preparation for this purchase.
That's correct. So we have $450,000 available right now in the sanitation fleet fund. This particular truck, as I said, is almost 300,000. I think it was just under. So with that, we'll still have a remaining fee, fund of $150,000. And then we'll have to look forward. We wouldn't want to replace a truck again next year. Then we'll fall into the problem where we have two older trucks at the same time. So we'll stretch that out a little bit, pick a good year, and look at purchasing another one then at that point. Okay.
Any questions or comments for Director Robards and Deputy Mayor Depot?
I have a few questions. So we'd be replacing the 2004.
I'll be
Truck.
replacing the actually number 2, which is the 2007 Freightliner. That's probably the truck that needs the most work. And the older truck is just a little bit older, but that's one that was kind of pre-emissions. That's really the workhorse that we have. The number 9 truck, which is a 2004 Freightliner. I'll keep that one. I'll replace the 2007 unit. Okay?
And so the last time we bought a truck, is the 2015 truck the same as this truck that we're going to buy?
Same design, exactly.
And what did we pay in 2015 for that truck?
So I looked for the exact number. I was told it was $247,000.
And so we got a quote. I understand this is from the state approved list. Did we go to any other companies to see
We
what
really had,
the
so
price
we
would be?
had some difficulty trying to even get a truck in here to look at. It's, the back order on these are really, really out there. We were fortunate we had, this gentleman came in, and this truck was built for another community, and then they fell through on the purchase. And it just, the timing was right. We've been trying to get someone in here to give a demonstration and everything. He offered to come in. He had one that just finished being, was just being completed. It takes almost a year to build these things. He brought it in, we test drove it, all of the mechanics drove it, the drivers drove it, very happy with it. It was just a fortunate occurrence to have one available for us.
So let me take a side trip on this.
Please.
So if the council authorizes the purchase of this truck, how soon can we have a truck in hand?
So right now they're setting it up. This price includes, it's got the tippers on the back for the toters. This price includes adding a winch and the hooks so that we can take the dumpsters as well. That's probably a month out, probably 2 months before we get the truck.
So now we're talking 2-month lead time as opposed to 12 months to 18 months.
So actually, some of the times that we were given were 18 months to 3 years, unfortunately, for these.
Deputy Mayor Depot, in case you had additional questions.
I did have another question, but now I'm trying to remember what it was. So our future goal, we had previously discussed in committee, figuring out where we're going to go with Public Works Department. This was before you took the position, so it kind of, the conversation kind of waned, and we changed councils in the meantime also. But, so our goal in the future is not to have every city resident go to toters if possible, or what?
So, you want me to speak to that?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
what is
so
your idea of that, on
I'd
that?
love to have everybody go to the toters because it really gives us some relief on the lifting. We still need to transport it back and forth, from the curb or the sidewalk out to the truck, but it's easier on the staff. I know we sell on average 1 toter a day, so roughly like 350 toters a year get sold. We sell them here. They're cheaper to purchase from us than they would be to get from Home Depot or anywhere else. We stock them. They call in and order either a 95-gallon or a 65-gallon toter, either for solid waste or for recyclables, and that works out really well for us. The customers like them. We've got a warranty on them for over a year with the company that sells them to us. It's really a great opportunity. But I'd love to go to all toters, but not everybody can afford them. So these particular trucks that we're purchasing, I can either hand load it in the back, or I can use the tipper with the toter style barrels.
So, you know what we might want to do? I just had this idea. Because I don't know how many people know that we have them, and I've bought them. They look a lot nicer, and they're easier, like, for the guys to pull off the curb and everything too, even if they are dumping it themselves. It might be a good idea to even do like a video showing what they look like, because we have two different sizes and they're different colors and whatever, to do a quick video and post it online. Because I bet you would get more people that would buy them,
Yeah.
and that would be easier for the guys on the trucks.
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. And actually, so Counselor Carter talked about the interaction with the staff. You'd be amazed on how many people come out and greet our guys and talk to them. So many of the sales really are through our staff. They see the neighbors have that particular barrel, and where'd you get that? The city has them. But I like that, though. A little video or something that we can post on the page. That'd be great.
Are you,
I have one more question.
all right.
I'm sorry.
Then let me go to Counselor Piazza, and then I'll go to you.
My last question is, so if we're using $300,000 of what's in the fund now, how long do you anticipate it taking to get that fund back up to 300 to purchase the next vehicle?
So initially, I was thinking to request another $250,000 for this coming budget year, and that's what I had talked about in July, June, July. I think, I'll get together with Ron, but as I mentioned earlier, I was thinking about it, and I thought, why would I want to purchase a new truck this year and then following the next year with another brand-new truck? My intent then would be to put $50,000 a year into the fund, and with that should put us within 3 years and ready to have another brand-new truck. And it's a little bit easier on the budget.
So the difference is, just in case some of the new council is unaware, is that for roads and highways, that is funded by the town. Sanitation is funded through us in the city. So we have money returned back to us based on the special act for, it says, those monies that are necessary and proper for the repairing and making of roads that are city roads in the town of Groton. So that's the one versus the sanitation here.
I believe 2 years ago, we put $50,000 in the fund. The following year, we put $150,000 in the fund. And this past year, we added $250,000, and that got us up to $450,000, where we're at right now. Okay.
So we will be looking at this. One of the things we're looking forward. The other thing that Ron, Finance Director, and Ron Uhas are looking at is, we've talked about this in the council before, is that our permit fees are going to eventually go back to normal, which was around $300,000 to $400,000 a year. The buildings, let me be specific, building 600, 604, 605, over $1 billion worth of buildings will go on the grand list once they get the CO, but it's an enterprise account, enterprise zone, so therefore it's a 5-year payback. It doesn't go 100%, like for example, a residence or other properties. So it's a 5-year payback. So what's going to happen is, we've been used to a certain amount of fees coming in, now that's coming down. We're used to a certain amount of revenue, that's going to be building back up again, but there's going to be a gap period of a couple years before we get to where we're in a I don't know if I want to use the word comfortable, but in a very good position. So what we're looking at now is, we have our fund balance. The lenders want us to be between 20 and 25%. We're around 24.1%. We also have some money set aside that we can tap into if we need to for other capital expenses. But if not, that money can be used to offset that V, so that either we're able to keep taxes flat or minimize any increase that we may have. So what I'm telling you is that right now, because we have the permit fees, we've been able to spend the money. Eventually, we're going to have to go back and have tighter control on our expenses and money, because that revenue's not going to be, that artificial revenue at that level is not, it will cease to exist. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. My intent is to still fund the fleet so that, because I'm a big believer in, if you don't pay, pay me now or pay me later, and typically, if you gotta pay later, there's interest and it's painful. Because now you get something that breaks hard and you gotta pull the payment out and you're not ready. So we will continue to be judicious on this. Who had the floor? Councilor Piazza.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment first that I'm really pleased with you talking to New London and getting their best practices. I really like that whole idea. I like all the comments that are said and the questions. So I'm looking at, on the health side, so I don't know, I try to research it, but I was looking at like injuries with these trucks, which I'm sure there is, but I'm thinking with it doing tote and hopefully less lifting, that would decrease injuries.
Absolutely.
That's part of the
Absolutely.
plan.
Sure.
Yeah, and I like that you guys are planning ahead for the next vehicle. So my questions is, when I was looking at this truck and the specifics in it, and this, may not be anything, but I didn't know if there was any, and I'm thinking as a driver myself. So I noticed in the chassis equipment, there's no backup alarm. I'm not sure how often they actually back up, but I didn't know why that was.
There's backup cameras on the trucks.
Okay, but-
Actually, this version has several cameras. The design is really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, the actual cab forward gives the driver really good visibility. And I believe there were 6 cameras located on the truck. And they enunciate, if you get within a proximity of a certain, a car or whatever, when they back up, you'll get a chirp into the driver.
Okay, chirp inside or outside?
Inside.
Inside.
The driver.
So there's no
Stop.
outside alarm per
Stop.
se for a person or anything like that?
Backup, it should have a backup alarm on it. when
Oh,
you
it should?
back
Oh,
up.
it just
Yep.
says no backup alarm on here.
I'll check. I'll
Okay.
confirm that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, because I just didn't know if
Yeah.
there was,
All of
I
our-
was trying to think to myself, how often
Yeah.
do they actually back up? I'm sure they do.
All of the
I was
fleets
just-
have the backups in the
Okay.
strobes, yeah.
And so I'm looking at safety, so there's no blind spot camera system. I'm just thinking probably now that you're discussing it, saying this truck came, landed into our laps basically at a perfect time, so, But the other thing is, since we are in New England, it says no undercoating, so I was concerned like during the winter and what we use on the roads. I mean, is that something we should look into?
Actually, so we do a pretty good job with washing down the fleet as well, too. So, we have trucks that are out there spreading sand, and we're driving across, miserable roads. So one of the things that our mechanic Webster does, we go through a rigorous wash down process, post every storm that comes through, and we try to stay on top of them as best
Okay.
we can.
Okay,
That works really well.
all right.
We also use fluid film, which is another, and it really brings the pH, so you're throwing the salt on it, and the pH gets out of whack. The fluid film brings it back to a neutral or 7 pH,
Okay.
which, resists the corrosion.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Carter, you had a comment?
Just a comment, it's probably beating a dead horse, I don't know the phrase, but, I think when we do have that discussion, if we should move to all the totes, I think that's a real important conversation we should have, and quicker, better than, or sooner better than later, right? I know that, like I said, me spending 2 months out of a month and a half, 2 months out of the year, picking up those
It's tough.
and I was, 19, Division I football player. I was like, and I know based off, at least then, seniority, it was like, okay, if you had time on, the younger people or whatever, and then they moved to, and I know some of the guys, when they love that summer help, and I know they continue to love that summer help, that little break, But if you're doing that for 20 years plus, that's got to be damaging. It has to be, So I think that's a talk that definitely needs to be had. I also think that there are some times, and I think some of the guys will tell us, I don't know if it should be required to put maybe one bag in like one of those big old totes, because sometimes it takes more time just to drag it over, hook it up, and just to put one little bag in, But I think if you're having some of the conventional type of things and having to lift it up, that's a lot, So that definitely needs to happen. And I also think that when they moved it, well, when we moved it, well, not me, I wasn't on the council, when they moved it to 1-day pickup, that significantly changed the game, you know? So the loads are pretty heavy, you know? That's just something to think about. That's one of the reasons why I got totes, you know? I have a long driveway, and I didn't want to, you know, it's a lot. So the little totes, the Home Depot totes help, and they are expensive. So when it comes to purchasing those, if I knew that the city had those, I definitely would have purchased through the city, and I didn't know
Well,
that.
I think we can do some publicity on this. Get it out on Facebook. I think with the video on the totes and then making sure that people understand that they're available, I think we can do that and we can increase the purchasing of it. And then, you know, we focus on it for a year or so, enforcing the 85-pound limit in the ordinance and red flagging them if we need to, if they're oversized or overweight, and continue to do that. And, you know, if we're consistent in doing that, when we get the phone calls here, we'll take them and we'll address them and we'll report back. Any other? Deputy Mayor Depot.
I'm sorry, I do have one more question. It says that the truck is white. Does that mean we're gonna have 3 orange trucks and 1 white truck?
We're going to look at, so I talked to Webster about that. I got a price to have it painted. There's a couple of different levels to do that. You know, do you want to get the Mako style paint job, or do you want to get the $15,000 paint job? Or, you know, there's other opportunities. My staff likes a lot of people are using these wraps now, so you can wrap the cab, you know, with blocks, you know, so it's a rough surface, right, the body of it. You might be able to block pieces off. So there's a couple of things that I'm looking at. I don't have the answers to that yet, but there are a couple different solutions to have it to go with the orange color as well. So that's the right thing to do, is to make it orange. I just don't know if we're gonna spray it or
Okay.
wrap it at this time. Thank you.
I know it seems minor, but I know that there's been a lot of talk of privatization, and from my mind, a lot of residents will ask if that's a private truck, probably, because it looks different than the rest of the fleet. So,
Well,
that was my question.
No, it's a great comment, and we'll address that before we get it on the road.
Okay.
And all the trucks, particularly all the trucks look alike. The way it tells difference is town trucks have a black hood and state trucks have that blue seal on the doors. Well, we also have City of Groton, so you can see City of Groton on ours. But, because I'll get phone calls in the wintertime and people say, you need to go down to Cumbie's, Mayor, because you got a lot for sale down there. And I'll go down there and, you know, there'll be the blue state symbol that's on the door. Or every once in a while, you'll see a black hood down there. And you'll say, oh, not us. And ours are marked. You're right, Councilor Carter, ours are marked. Any other questions or comments on this? Councilor Sheffield.
And still, we have a chance to recoup some money based on a trade-in, so it won't
Absolutely
be,
so.
yeah, so
Yep.
our balance could go up if we get a
Absolutely
decent
so.
trade-in, so.
Yep.
That's not bad.
Councilor Piazza.
Quick question about the totes. So what is the price of them? I know there's 2 different sizes. Anybody know off the top, since we are being
Oh, I have that.
live here?
I have that for you.
Thank you.
I'm going to say 75.
65, I paid for mine.
Okay, so.
I thought they were
let's see,
equal
so
for each.
What we're looking at, so
But who
the
knows what's going on.
65 gallon, the cost to the city is $69.46.
Okay.
The 95 gallon toter, the cost to the city is $74.46.
And for those who may be struggling, is there payment plans or anything that we know of? Or is it has to be bought straight out? Outright? Could they do a payment plan? You know, some people can't even afford that. You
We
know.
have not been doing payment plans, but I can, like, I did
no.
research the cost of these, you know, elsewhere, and we're probably $20 less per container
Yeah.
from our competitors.
And I know some people that just can't even afford that extra, so I was just asking.
Yeah, and that's, I think, why we still have a mix, you know, where some people are using the smaller containers, and, you know, Councilor Carter mentioned about the weight restriction, and we really monitor that, we govern that. I think ours is 75 pounds, so, you know, and the guys can pick it up, but, you know, and I actually did some math, and I knew how much, you know, how much weight each technician lifted each day, and I have the statistics. it's interesting, but the quicker we get to the toters is the right thing to do. And I do like the opportunity to go with a video. I think that's, you know, something that can really outreach to everybody.
Yeah, would be.
They lift it, and if they, most of the times they lift it, because they know they're gonna end up coming back out and picking up anyway.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, you're right. Right, or they'll have to,
phone call and they come out and get it.
yeah.
More of
We-
a, I'm not saying it's nobody's fault, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
they try to,
Well,
I know,
the-
I know they pick up more than they leave, but they will leave it.
I know, and they will leave it, and we've received phone calls. And my comment is, split your thing,
Yeah.
because, yeah, I'm not gonna risk injury to our employees.
No, that's what I'm saying, I'm like,
Right.
they don't,
Oh, yeah.
they do more, they go beyond.
Yeah, they do.
You're absolutely right, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments on this agenda item? Okay, hearing none. We need a motion to move it to the mayor and council meeting at 12/6/21.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, thank you, Bill.
all.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, 6:55, department presentations. This is informing, so Tina's first step, Groton Utilities Customer Service. Or do you want Linda to go first? Well, you just happen to be listed first, I mean, we can go with, this is a continuation of having department heads and general managers for the utilities to come out and talk about their departments and their divisions and what they're doing and what they do for the city of Groton in general, and in this particular case, for Groton Utilities in the city.
Is there, do you guys have enough? I have additional.
Is everybody,
Everybody good? Oh, that's fine. I made extras. I made extras. Good evening, councilors. How are you guys today? Good. So I gave each one of you a pack of information that we'll kind of go through, and then if you have questions as we go on, you can just go ahead and ask. One of the things that I thought would be really important to discuss is all the energy assistance that's out there for Groton Utilities customers as a whole, and then obviously the city of Groton residents also. The first thing I did is I put in the pack, I gave each one of you one of my business cards. Please feel free to use it if you have any questions, like after this presentation, if you have residents are coming up and asking questions, you can feel free to give them my direct number. Please don't give my cell number out. You guys can absolutely use my cell number if you ever need to, if you have any questions in regard to this or anything about customer service and what we do in general. The next thing I actually gave you guys is these little cards, and I'm going to actually start making some of these up, and we're going to have them in our front counter area. This is all the energy assistance agencies that are out there for Groton Utilities customers. And then some of the ones like the TVCCA, that is actually federal, so that goes across the United States. And then the Groton Human Services, they support the town and the city of Groton. We put in like the Jewish Federation. They actually have assisted a lot of customers with like a one-time bill assistance. Connecticut Helpline, the 211, if they can help with energy assistance, but they can provide a lot of other assistance, like if an individual is getting evicted from their apartment, they can find, temporary housing for them. United Way, they do a lot of, obviously, the food banks, they kind of step in and assist with some of the individuals that could be getting evicted, and that they will assist at times with somebody's utility bill if they need to. And then obviously your local churches, your unions. Around here, another one that's really huge is there's actually I think it's Sailor Soldier Relief Fund, and they actually have an office at the military base, the Navy base, and they've helped a lot of veterans or active duty military to help with their utility bills or rental assistance. They step in and they've actually issued a significant amount of money to particular customers to help with their utility bills. And then there's two new ones that came out during COVID. One was United CT, which they actually stepped in, and it's Connecticut driven, and they actually assist with their utility bill and also their rent. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So a customer has to, when they apply for rental assistance, and then they also apply for their energy assistance if it's oil or if it's electric heat. And then a new one that just was approved, and it's going to start, I think, November 1st, which would be Wednesday, is they actually came out and they're going to start assisting customers with water usage. And everything that I've read on it, and I actually attached that in here also, it's not just for rental. It actually can be for property owners also. If their water bills have gotten out of control, that they can provide for assistance, and it can be a one-time assistance, and it goes up to $1,500. And I've been working with a couple of customers, telling them to get in touch with Groton Social Services and apply for the assistance for the water. I also included a little envelope. We send these envelopes out to all of our customers any place between 2 and 4 times a year. And that money goes directly to Groton Social Services. And any of our customer donations that our customers provide, us as Groton Utilities do a match program, and we match whatever our customers donate to Groton Social Services. We actually match that on the Groton Utility side, and that is all for Groton Utility customers only. So they keep the funds completely separate. So it's actually, so when a customer donates money, it's for Groton Utilities customers only, and it's for their utility bills. In the package, I also included the United CT guidelines. And one of the things that's really interesting about the United CT that they changed in the 1st of October, when they first rolled this out, they were only doing what was past due for the customer. They changed it in the first part of October, and they're allowing us to go back and retro back for 18 months, back to April 1st. So what they have done is we supplied customers balances of where they're at currently, if they're delinquent and they've applied or they've already received money from United CT, they're actually paying that additional money. So we had customers that from United CT, they maybe, let's say hypothetically, got $600, but they still had a $1,700 bill out there. United CT just covered that and paid that. So a lot of these customers that were struggling, on top of getting rental assistance, which they're going back 19 or 18 months, they're also doing it on the utility side. And it doesn't matter if it's oil or gas. It all comes to the utility company through United CT, because it's going back and helping with their utility bills and not their heat source. Which is actually, and they're going to continue to do that. They basically removed off that cap of $1,500. So then there's not a cap. It's just, it won't go any further back though from April 1st, 2020. And then I put something in here in regards to the Connecticut water assistance, which this is the first time ever, and I've been here 20 plus years, and the state has never given any money for water. They've never done any assistance whatsoever. I also included the guidelines for TVCCA eligibility, so that you as counselors can see kind of where the thresholds are and what customers can get assistance, and kind of where they fall and what kind of assistance they will receive. And then I put down some dates so that you guys can kind of be aware of kind of when customers can apply and not apply. So here's something that's really interesting that happened this year with United CT. So, they received a additional grant money for for COVID-19. And in the past, they've given us additional funds for anybody that has applied for energy assistance, whether it's utility or alternate heating source, wood, oil, gas. And sometimes they've given us like $160 per customer. This year, they provided us $700 per customer that was approved for any type of heat source. So that actually, for Groton Utilities, was $400,000 additional to our customers that were already getting energy assistance. So they first applied for TVCCA. They very well got any place between $460 and $700. In September, every customer that applied for energy assistance and that qualified got an additional $700. On top of the United CT Fund and on top of Project Warm Up. So customers that were struggling, they had 4 different sources that they could go to get assistance, and they were all individually funded. So, which is it's huge, and it's actually helped a lot of our customers get out of a delinquent status and being able to get a payment arrangement and getting their accounts current, or at least in the, between 30 and 60 days past due. So what on the back end of that, what helps is since COVID, with the due diligence of my customer service staff and working extremely hard with all of our customers and setting payment arrangements, we have stayed right between 3 and 10% delinquency rate, which is actually pretty phenomenal outside of COVID. And last month, what did we set at 5? We set at 5% last month at month end. We were at 5% delinquency rate, which is huge for us.
Councilor Carter.
That well, that's great. Oh, that's awesome. The $400,000 that you got, is that $400,000 for the people that applied for the assistance, or is that just $400,000 that was granted to GU to disperse to the people?
Nope, we never did. It's all dispersed by TVCCA is an independent fund. So they sent us the individual customers that applied,
Okay, gotcha. All right.
no matter what their heat source is. So we actually had customers calling because they got a $700 credit on their account, and they're like, this was misplaced. And I'm like, did you apply for oil? He goes, yeah.
No.
And I go,
I got what
That's
you're
what
saying.
it
No, I
is.
got what you're saying.
yeah.
You're saying that they, out of the people that applied, they gave you guys money, GU money, then you guys dispersed it to their accounts.
They actually gave us the accounts. Yeah.
They
we
gave you
don't,
accounts.
we
Yeah,
don't,
okay,
right,
all right.
right. So
All
they
right.
gave us a check with 390 accounts.
For those, so
Yes.
they have all the information.
Yep,
and it's-
yep,
gotcha,
they have
okay.
to
All
apply,
right.
they have to apply to TVCCA, we don't apply for them.
All right, I didn't know if it was we got $400,000 and then we did that and then.
No.
Perfect. All right, cool.
Nope, it's all driven by TVCCA.
One of the reasons that I wanted Tina to come and give a presentation is we're getting into the months where, you can't shut off and those kind of things as long as the individuals are part of a program. But I wanted Tina to talk about what we do during this period, TVCCA, the relationship we have with them and the other organizations, particularly United CT, because that came up during COVID and there were some issues. We actually had a clinic here where we had a van come up, and I asked the van to come here, and we publicized it and everything else, and we only had maybe 8 or 9 people show up that whole day. And it's been one of these things where we're trying to get the word out, we're trying to let people know that if you need assistance, there are programs that are out there. And customer service specifically is, they're telling people about this. And if somebody gets in arrears, you know, one of the things that came out in COVID is they said, okay, fine, we're not going to cut you off during COVID. But we already had payment plans working with people pre-COVID and post-COVID so that we're not shutting people off. So that's one of the things that the utility does diligently all the time, but I don't know that it's out there. And I also don't know that it's out there, the kinds of programs that are available for those people that may need energy assistance. And that's one of the reasons, one, I wanted to bring it to the council, but two, also get it out to the general public so that they know these programs are available and they can call customer service and ask about the programs, and we will do everything we can, can to get them connected with the right organization.
And there's links on our website for all this, to United CT, to the Connecticut Water Assistance, TVCCA, Groton Social Services, and any delinquent notice that we send to customers, this little index card, all these numbers are on every single shut-off notice, every one of them, to ensure that customers can, you know, find a way, because there's assistance out there. And currently right now, this is probably the most assistance I have seen since I have been here. So there's a lot out there, and they'll do one time. I mean, if you're above the threshold, and I mean, Groton Social Services and TVCCA, they have the ability to override, and they'll do a one-time $300 credit or assistance to help customers, or, you know, find other avenues so that they can assist them with other bills, or you know, childcare, housing, whatever. I mean, it's such an amazing organization.
Councilor Sheffield.
Yes, Tina, does the American Rescue Plan Fund also help in this regard with the?
I haven't seen any money from there yet.
Okay.
They very well could be funding to the agencies, and that's where they're getting their additional funding.
Okay.
There's another program called Project Warm Up, and I'm not sure where all that money comes from, but that's ran through Groton Social Services. So money could be coming from them also.
Any other questions or comments from council? Councilor McCabe.
This envelope, you said that you do matching funds. So if I was to send a check in, how does it get back to you that I'm?
They send us a report.
Okay.
The Groton Social Services sends us a report. Is it monthly or? Yep, every month, and then we just match it. So if it's $500, we match $500, and.
I sign a check.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, that's it. Thank you, Tina.
If you have any questions after, just please don't hesitate to give me a call.
And thanks for what you and your group do.
You're welcome.
Your team is very diligent. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Human Resources. Linda?
We've tried several times, haven't we? Okay, well, good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. It's my pleasure to present the Human Resources Department to you this evening. The HR department at one time or another touches every single person who works here. It's a life cycle for us, from recruiting to interviewing, then all the ups and downs in between until the end of their time with us. Some see us only when newly hired or when separated. Some see us often, hopefully for good reasons. Where HR is seen in some companies as paper pushers, we see ourselves as the department that brings in the employees who may spend a good part of their lives with us. The City of Groton wants to make their journey as pleasant as possible. The HR department is all about customer service, and we are lucky to have an HR team who truly believe in this. The HR department always strives for continuous process improvement. We are looking always for efficiencies, effectiveness, and try to be cost conscious in all that we do. We know we're not a revenue department, for sure. I would like to quickly go through the packet that you received. Do you all have that? still, okay, that was sent out a while ago. Okay, so page 1 is our core activities, including employment responsibilities, which play a major role in our day-to-day activities. We have to keep up to date on so many federal and state regulations. There are so many, and we have to be diligent in getting the information that we need to keep up with them. We attend webinars, most of them free, put out by attorney firms, our insurance consultant, and other resources. We administer our health and welfare programs, which include family medical leave, which is a big one, respirator fit testing, hearing conservation, random drug and alcohol testing for our DOT folks, and so many others, as well as mandatory trainings. As you can see under administrative, the list is pretty extensive. This is where much of our labor is spent, and we are currently looking at a system where we can eliminate some of the redundancy that makes processes more effective and less labor intensive. Currently, we enter information into the HR module of Springbrook, our major system, and then revise the spreadsheets that we use for various record keeping and reports. In addition to what we do on a regular basis, the last couple of years has really increased our work with COVID, having to take care of that and all the forms that came along with that issue. Luckily, that's kind of gone down. And then vaccination cards. We are collecting them still, just so that we're ready if a vaccination mandate ever comes down the pike to us. The second page illustrates that recruitment and hiring is one of our major responsibilities. Since 2020, we have had 36 new hires, 24 transfers or promotions that had to be backfilled, along with 22 retirements and 11 resignations that also had to be filled. In the summertime, we also bring in 55 to 60 seasonal workers. It's extremely time intensive as recruitment and orientation. From recruitment to orientation takes over 35 hours per employee. The average time to fill a position is 80 days. Our major job board is Indeed. Since I started with the city in September of 17, we have posted almost 100 jobs on the Indeed site as well as the city website. But in order to reach out to many people, we send our job postings to the entities listed as appropriate. So on the second page under recruitment, this is where we would typically send our job postings. So human service organizations, CT, DOL, Vets, Centro de la Comunidad, NAACP, the Navy Center, and then all the ones that are related to the actual jobs, like AWWA for water, APPA for public power, NEPA for the local public power, Channel 2, and a bunch of different listservs depending, again, on the job. So our turnover rate is actually pretty good. It's been about 14%, with 10% coming from retirements. Right now, we have about 24% of our employees who are over 60 and eligible to retire. So we have to be sure that we plan for workforce changes and succession planning. On page 3, this is just, I thought, a very interesting page for you to see. These are all of the departments, and then the different departments in Groton Utilities. First one's the City of Groton, and then the unions that we have here and where they are attached to as far as the positions go. So 73% of the City of Groton is unionized. We have about 155 unionized members and about 55 non-union members. During 2020 and 2021, we negotiated and closed all 8 contracts. The longest contract negotiation was with United Steelworkers in our water department, beginning in May of 2019 with ratification in October of 2020. During 2020 and 2021, we negotiated many grievances. I had to up the number, and I didn't get the final number because those go on pretty much monthly. So what we are working on. We recently held some meetings with our non-union staff to hear about, ideas and concerns that they may have, and it was really informative, and we have a list of items to prioritize and work on over the next 12 months. Our employee handbooks aren't wonderful, so we will be going through all of that to make sure that all the information that's necessary for folks to easily read and understand is there for them. We're going to update also the city policies to bring them all current. As far as performance management goes, we're looking at our performance evaluation tools, which are just okay, in some places not good at all, and establish a process for merit increases. Right now, nobody gets an increase if they're doing a fantastic job. Everybody gets the same thing. So it's difficult, and that's one of the biggest things that was brought up, is that I can do as little or as great as I can, but I'm not going to get any appreciation or recognition for it. So that seems to be a really big issue, so we're looking at how do we bring in a good merit system so that it's fair. Company culture is definitely on the low end, and the morale needs work. So communication, management training, and appreciation of our staff. We have a great events committee that started up when Jill, the party person, and my assistant, my HR generalist, Jahani, when she came on, she just really loves getting people together, and she's done a fantastic job. So now there's an events committee, and there's stuff going on all the time, and it's been really great. We had a pie contest last week, right? It was last week. Yeah, it was wonderful. You were in charge? Yes, you were. She didn't eat a lot, but those who ate a lot, would you please raise your hand? Tina? So things like that make it, fun and happy, and you get to talk to people that you don't normally talk to. We also have to review our compensation, to look at market equity. Are we doing as well as the other companies or other municipalities out there? And we will be hiring a consultant to help us with that. Employee value added, this is something else that people brought up. Some get education, some will get degrees that's related to their job. And there's training that we offer and certifications. And we would like to see people who bring value to their jobs get rewarded, whether it's an increase during their review time or it's a one-time, thank you, $500. This is great. We're also looking at non-management salaried positions. They're sort of, salaried people are thrown into the hourly realm in our handbooks and in our benefits, and I want to pull them out because most salaried people will work a lot more than 40 hours, and we don't have comp time, so we're looking at that. And there's emergency pay when directed to come in for storm duty. So ops people are all set up through their contracts to get paid for storm time, but when our admins or others are called in, if they're salaried, they really don't get anything more. Last time we did give them a day off. Benefits communication. I would like to see a benefits handbook or a brochure so that everybody knows exactly what we offer. We have a great package, and it's not advertised. We really have some really good benefits that people, I think, would be really happy with if they saw exactly what the whole package looked like. And in the past, we held, I wasn't around then, we held employee annual meetings for both the city and GU, and a lot of the people really liked that. Getting together, having, listening from the director and from the mayor, and getting information about how we're doing, where we are, what's new. And we're going to try to start that up again. So that's it. We're not just paper pushers, though we do push a lot of paper, and it's just our way. Yes?
For your salary people, do you offer flex time so that people that have to stay late, like yourself tonight, could maybe come in a little bit later in the morning and just sort of have a flex time?
I think some do who come in and stay later than I'm going to stay this evening. I believe, and there's a couple of people that do have that, yes. And we just have to talk to the mayor about it, and he's pretty accommodating about it. We don't have that, it's not official.
Okay.
One of the challenges that we have is that municipalities run a certain way and private industry runs other ways.
Right.
And there are things that will work in private industry that have not been tried here. So we don't know if they'll work or they'll not work. One of the challenges that we run into is how do you do it and not get abused? And then how do you avoid the one-offs? How do you avoid the, one of the challenges that we have is treating everybody fairly based on merit, right? So doing something special for Stephen, but not giving Quinn the same opportunity, or back and forth, those kind of things. So there are several things we're looking at. One of the things that I've authorized is to do a study for salaries in the municipality and in the utility and in the municipality. We're also looking at flex time and comp time and how to do that. Right now, if somebody who is salaried comes up and says, I've worked really long hours, I'd like to take Friday afternoon off, they can do that. They can come to the mayor and say, hey, I want to do that. But if they don't come to me, I don't know. I find out what their time that they used on Mondays when I look at the time cards for the week before.
Right.
And so, but we are looking at those kind of things. The other thing is we're looking at a one-time bonus for certain things. And that has not been, I don't know, that hasn't been tried here yet, right? Or was it tried and we didn't do well on it? Do you have a history?
I am not sure on that one.
Okay. But, the other challenge that you run into here as a municipality is we're using other people's money, right? This is taxpayers' money.
Right.
So there is an accountability to that money. And we don't want the perception that we're just spending money willy-nilly because we can. It's either taxpayer money or ratepayer money. And so that's the other thing that we are super sensitive to is what it is, the appearance of what it looks like to the public.
Okay, yeah, so at Electric Boat, we have flex time for our salary people, and we do have to clock in and out, so in that sense, we're like hourly, because we are accountable to the Navy for
Right.
the time that we do put in. But, for doctor's appointments and those times when you're working long during the week and you can take a Friday afternoon, it's not on an individual basis, it's
Right.
more holistic.
Right. And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to do a policy that is across the board.
Right.
Because one of the things that I've learned since I've been here as mayor is I want to avoid one-offs. And the other thing is that we have to be sensitive to is that if I do something for an employee over here, what is the ripple effect over here? So something could happen to an employee in utilities, and they say, nope, it just impacts utilities. It doesn't impact everybody else. Well, that's not true. The guys over here are talking to the guys that work at utilities,
Yeah.
and all my unions are talking to each other, and my non-unions are talking to each other. And if somebody gets something and I didn't get something, then why didn't I get that? And, those kind of things. I mean, in one case right now, we're looking at the contract says that the eyeglass benefit is for glasses. A lot of people wear contact lenses. And we worked through this with non-union, right? We were able to do that. But in this contract, it doesn't allow for corrective lenses. It doesn't allow for contacts. It says glasses, right? Isn't that the right words?
Or safety glasses.
Or safety glasses. And so this is the challenge that you get into. And it's just, but these are the nuances and things that we're trying to do. I think people sometimes forget, if you look at our employees, we have 221,
It's about 210,
214, sorry,
something like
somewhere.
that, yeah.
yeah, about around 214 is the total number of employees that we have between the utility and the municipality. Hold on a second, did I answer
Yeah,
Was your question addressed?
Where we are, each group decides what kind of flex time for that particular group. For, in my area, software developers, they have core hours that they have to be there, but some like to come in, some teams come in later, some come in earlier. So it really, we work it out based on what works best for the teams to be the most productive, but we are sensitive to things like doctor's appointments and things like that.
We just started talking about core hours, because that's one of the things I had at my other industry, other place. And I was also a defense contractor, so I'm sensitive to the DCAA thing. The challenge here is we have business hours. You know, we're open from
Right.
whatever to whatever. And then one of the things we did during COVID is that we took Fridays off, and that allowed us to catch up on things and those kind of things. And one of the things that I'm looking at going forward is whether or not do we keep Friday off and have us Monday to Thursday with our hours and those kind of things. And that's something that we are looking at. And so far, that business model does not appear to have hurt business or hurt the residents. So that's just something we're looking at. Councilor Carter.
Yeah, I asked that question last week. We didn't have a meeting, but I asked about the salaries and whatnot as far as when it comes to the city employees. And I just know, just being a state employee for my entire career, like the way the state does it, there's no salary position where there is any incentives or any overtime or comp time or any of that. It's within the salary, and they have strong unions that adjust their salary for that, for the coming in on the rainy day or whatever. So we don't run into these problems. You know, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think where it lies is that GU is, it's a business. It's not a government, but we run it.
Right.
So you may have some positions that are like, all right, well, how come I'm not getting paid? You know, where there's some other positions that aren't. I think, I mean, and just even in my own position, we move up into management. We move up to a salary position, knowing that we're not going to get that extra because that's what our salary is going to be.
Right.
You know, and I think moving towards that may be easier to do, towards like whether it's upping the salary.
Yep.
Rather than giving them, okay, I'm going to give you so-and-so to come in. You know, that's your position. You chose the position, you're going to come in, right? The other thing I was going to say is with I know we're not doing this now, but I would shy away from monetarily, on a monetary basis, giving employees money for them to do their job, what they're supposed to do. I think that we should more look at the people that aren't doing their jobs and kind of cutting them down rather than giving people kudos for just giving excellence anyway. That's what they should be doing.
What a great idea.
I don't.
Everybody listening to that? We have had this discussion.
Yeah. So, and again, and this is just because I know on the state level what we do is, you know, we have a rating. Like we have quarterly observations, and if you don't reach that standard, your supervisor says you don't reach that standard. If you have a certain consecutive times you don't reach that standard, then you just simply won't get your step like the next year. And then it goes further and further and further. It's simple as that. I think a simple recognition that you consistently do yearly, if people are going above and beyond and actually doing their job, will suffice. But as far as the monetary benefit, I don't think the residents of Groton City are gonna, I don't think they're gonna like that too much.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Depot.
I know I've spoken with Linda before. I'm big on employee morale. I do think, I know many places I've worked have had an annual meeting or an annual like field day or something where it's like an appreciation day for the employees. And I think, kind of to piggyback on Councilor Carter, recognition annually, even if it's for something silly like I don't know, cleanest office, or like, to me, those things, working in a place that does stuff like that makes you happy to be at work, even though it seems kind of silly, but like, even the pie contest, like, how great to come to work and eat pie for the day, like, that's fun. And happy employees are more productive employees. That's always how it is. And I like the direction we're moving in terms of those things. I think it's a great idea to do an annual meeting, and do recognition at an annual meeting would be great in front of, to get recognized in front of your peers is a big deal for a lot of people. And I do think that's important, even if we can't go so far as to, the difficult thing for me is, I do think people should be rewarded based on how well they do their jobs, and it is very difficult when you have when you have the dynamics of unions who do already fight for the salary that should be for that position to do your job. So I think a creative solution to still incentivize somehow the people who are going above and beyond, and whether that's, step increases that are different than others, or, promotional titles, or, I don't know if we do employees of the month or anything like that, or we could do, a special parking spot for employee of the month, or, those little things I think matter, and there's creative ways to get around it without monetary incentivization, which isn't maybe out of the question, but it just depends on how it's done, because I do think that it is kind of a tough subject to wrap around for residents, but yeah, I like the direction moving. Improving the culture is important, I think.
Absolutely.
And I agree. I would love to get us back together again, do an annual report, and basically a state of the state. Utility would give it out, I would give it out, and then we could do the recognition,
Like the service, yeah.
well, milestones and those kind of things, right? We used to do a breakfast. It started here, and it ended up here. In the end, it started out with, light refreshments in the morning and those kind of things, and eventually it got to where we were doing almost to order. And retirees were coming in, and everybody was coming in, everybody was having a good time, but the cost was something like $20,000 a year, something like that. 15 to 20, somewhere along there. So when I got here as mayor, we had stopped doing that, and I asked, could we do something like that again? They said, well, before you go off and get excited about that, let's look at the price tag. And so then I said, okay, as a start somewhere, what about we had donuts and coffee, or Danish and coffee, and you have something, a decent thing, but it's not almost to order. Would people come to this? And I asked Linda and other people to go out and talk to employees in general. And the consensus overall, we didn't do a 100% survey, and it wasn't scientific, but the overall consensus was, no, thank you. We're not interested. Now, the other challenge that we ran into is that depending on what time of year it is, some people start at 6:30 in the morning, some people start at 7:30. We were paying people overtime to come in to eat breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, you as council did not know that. I as counselor did not know that, but I know that now in the position that I am in, and that's just one of our challenges. I agree, I want to do something, but I'll give you another example. We have had picnics out here, right? I mean, where we've actually grilled during the middle of the day, because everybody's working during the middle of the day, and most people eat on the fly, and we would have less than 50% turnout. Most of the people that came were out of this building. We've also tried it where, okay, fine, let's have a picnic over there, meaning operations, and we'll have a picnic here, in between the two, we'll get it covered. Still, less than 50% turnout. So part of this is how do you not incentivize, but how do you you're trying to do good things for the employees, if they don't want to show up, how do you get them to show up for something that we're trying to do for them? And that's a challenge that we are wrestling with. And we have a committee that has done great things and have moved a lot of things forward. So I'm not trying to rain on the parade, because we're still going in that direction. We are still going to move forward with this. But there are some challenges to this, but even though we still have these challenges, we are continuing to move forward, and we're optimistic about how we're going to get there.
So we have a lot coming up, and we're gonna
We
be
do.
really busy. And hopefully it'll be rewarding, and we'll get this turned around. So, thank you very much. Oh, yes, I'm so
Counselor
sorry.
Sheffield.
Yes, sir.
Do you have an open door policy with your employees as far as when you speak of morale or anything, conflicts that need to be addressed? Because that's one of the things that, when you talk about, morale and everybody an incentive to do better, is that policy to take it to you if something isn't quite right as far as their salary, whether I'm being recognized? Do you have that open door to where somebody
Absolutely.
can come to you?
Absolutely, which is why we can't get our work done. No, we do, absolutely do. And people, I think we're the type of HR department that people like coming to rather than try to avoid, which is really good, which I've tried it, my whole career to do that. And yes, we do get a lot of people, and then the managers sometimes not so happy that they've decided to come by HR. But, we just let them talk it out, and then I get back to their manager and see if I can get them together. It depends on the situation, but absolutely. Anyone can come in at any time.
And my next question, benefits handbook, is that in reference to non-union employees? Because obviously union employees should always have a handbook.
Their benefits are in their contract.
Okay, so
There's
you're saying,
there's appendices in the contract with their benefits in it.
okay,
What I would like to see is something for, especially for new hires that come in, there's a lot of information that's given to them, but it's kind of scattered and it's not, everything's not in one place. So if they want to go home that night and look up something, I'm not sure that it's that easy for them. And you could have something that includes, at a high level, all the benefits which most of the people have.
okay.
Not all the same, but.
Yeah, one of the challenges with that, and we recognize this, is that we've tried to standardize the contracts. That's one of the things we tried to do this last round, and we're better than we were, but we're still not 100% standardized. So one contract, one union may have this level of benefit and share that they have to pay, and another union may have something that's different. And we have 8 unions, and that's the
So you always
the
have to
collective
refer back
bargaining.
to the contract when you're doing something so high level.
right, that's the bargaining process.
So basically, the new people should get a handbook as far as the benefits that are available
Yes,
as they start and progress. So how would you set that up to, how long, it's like their first year or something like that, or?
nothing really changes in benefits, but I think that, I've had new hires come to me and ask questions, and I just feel that if they had one point of reference to look at, and even during open enrollment, have that available again, so they can see, oh yeah, I forgot that we have this. Oh, we have eyeglasses. Oh, look, now we have contact lenses. So again, make it something that they like, that they're happy with, and that there's a reminder. It's advertising.
Counselor Carter,
Um,
were you done? Okay,
well-
Counselor
Well, I
Sheffield.
was gonna let you step in. I have another question. Tuition reimbursement, we talk about education. Is that something that the city is looking for people who are looking to get a bachelor's or a master's degree? Is that something that's a possibility that the city may implement?
Absolutely. We've already done it.
We already have, and
Okay.
depending on the position, we have a woman who came in and she was promoted recently to environmental engineer from an admin. She's great. She has think she's almost done her master's degree in environmental sciences. So we're happy to help with that. It's only going to help us.
Okay, good, yeah.
Councilor Carter?
Just while we're on it, I was thinking, and I've been meaning to get to it, and I find the time or the need to now. So there's a gentleman I know since he was a kid. He's a employee with GU, like mid-level. He's came a long way. He's from the projects, you know, and he asked me what I could do as a councilman to try to get more minorities, like on, you know, linemen, and just more of a face out, you know, more of a representation, you know.
I agree. Get 'em to apply.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah, that's the point.
well, let me finish, please.
I'm so sorry.
So that's always the excuse, get them to apply this, that, and the third. What I'm saying, and what he said, and it was very interesting, is that, you know, why can't we, like his vision was to, and he's not at the level to say this, but why can't we go out to like the Grosso Techs, and why can't we recruit, and why can't we going to Branford Manor or Pequannock Bridge and say, you know, GU wants you. Like, this is what you can do for, you know, your city or your town and whatnot. And we're not doing that enough. So I've been meaning to approach it, you know. Time's running out here soon, and I think more of that needs to happen. So I don't know if you guys have had those thoughts, and not just, you know, okay, get them to apply. Well, they don't know that they can apply, you know, culturally. There's a lot of things involved in that, you know. So is there more that we can do on the city level or in GU to reach out to minorities to get some of these positions, or work their way up to some of these positions?
Bill?
You mean a minority recruitment program?
Whatever you want to call it.
So,
Well, I can see something like that, Mayor. You know
Yep.
how the different colleges have, were you going to say something like that? Where they have the job fairs?
well, yeah, job fairs, things like that, tech schools maybe. But one of the things that I brought with me to here is going to Centro de Comunidad and NAACP. Because when I first got here, we weren't doing any of that. And one of the things that came out of that is we have 5% more diversity now than we did before. Are we where we want to be? We're not where I want to be. I think that's a good idea. The question is there a qualified pool of people to go after, right? I mean, let me be specific on what I'm going to say here. Ron, to be a lineman, can I just go anywhere and just go pick somebody and make them a lineman? Because if I can, then this recruitment thing that I'm thinking in my head, we could go do that. But typically, they have to have a certain amount of qualification or apply for an apprenticeship program. Am I close, or correct me on it?
Yeah.
They do the pre-screening.
So I was just thinking the 4 or 5 new linemen that we just brought in, all in the apprentice program,
Yep,
all of them had the education, some education behind them, some training in line. A lot of them went to that southern school, I forgot the name of it. And one went to, I believe, what's the big one? No, anyway, when we went to
Well,
Eversource, they went
so-
to Eversource's school, and, you know, some did it themselves.
Yep.
So we will put them through the whole 4 years.
well, I know, but
But the last time, yes, the last time,
So-
the people who applied had that.
so what we can do is we could target recruitment in the communities.
So the fact that we couldn't answer that outright, it kind of answers your question, because I know specifically, without saying names, I know there are at least 2 new hires that didn't have any formal lineman, a background to be a lineman. I know that. They have tons of construction background. I know that. But as far as actually working for CLMP, et cetera, I know at least 2 that
They
didn't have that.
networks. I'm sorry, I
So-
correct me, myself on that.
Okay.
They had the schooling, but yes, I think two or three maybe didn't have the actual practical experience of
Okay,
working on it.
okay, and that's what I was saying, and I was saying, so what I was saying, if we went to, say, like a Grasso Tech, where somebody was like saying, the electrical, trade, or whatever trade there are, that 4 years or whatever, that could set them up to apply for a position or get into some type of program, entry-level position with GU, that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm inquiring about, is it, what's the possibilities of that?
Ron, didn't we already look at Grasso? We've done that.
We actually had an active program that we were working on with the director at Grasso Tech. When COVID hit,
Yeah,
we actually had to let the apprentice,
right.
we had to let the apprentice electrician that was working with us, she was really good. We had to let her go back after COVID hit. We did not budget for Grasso Tech interns this year. There will be Grasso Tech interns into next year, hopefully for the water side as well as electric. So we were working with, I believe his name is Jonathan. I forget his name, but he's actually runs Grasso Tech. There's definitely an effort to do that.
There is, but I think Rashad's looking for something a little bit different than that.
Well,
And that-
what I would like to do is take this offline. You come to my office, talk about it, and we talk about a way to formalize this. I think it's a great idea.
I'm not trying to point fingers at it. I'm just trying to look at avenues or ways, and I don't know this, because first, like, clear avenues for our residents around here who are minorities
Sure.
that possibly maybe want to get it, employed with GU.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, it's a great field to go in. You can take care of your family, you know, if you know, and if they don't need to go get their master's degree and spend a ton of time in college, you know, and there's a clear pathway, as long as they're clear and decent people, why not, you know?
I agree.
All right, that's all I'm saying.
Because it all goes back, my thing is, I'm not gonna say you gotta hire this person, or you gotta hire the next three. It's the best qualified candidate. The problem has always been applicant flow. How do you get the applicant flow? One of the challenges is you can try to let it come to you organically, or you could go after it. We've done that a little bit, but not to the level that you're talking about. That's why I would like you to come and talk to me about this.
I think it's just awareness, and that was
Yep.
only brought to mind because the person who's with you guys now, it was brought to them by somebody. He wasn't aware of this. You know, this was brought to somebody. Hey, man, you know, you should do this and go to. You know,
Sure.
That's what I'm saying, and that's the reason why this individual is an employee, good employee with GU.
Okay.
Said, listen, man, you know, I'm doing good. I have a career here. I'm going to stay here.
Yep.
You know, but I want to help people that came from where I came from. You know?
Absolutely.
So that's all I'm saying.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Depot.
While you're talking, it made me think of this. I believe that EB has a minority council that they use to recruit people, because for me, if I went to a company to apply and it was 99% men, I would maybe not want to work there. So if they were, say, 80% men and the women that worked there came and recruited me, I would be more likely to apply there. So maybe that is a direction we can move in. So to have the people, so
Well-
like your friend that you know, and have a council of minority employees actually do the recruiting, not us say, hey, we have some minorities, also, let's recruit more minorities. I don't know that that's that effective, as opposed to getting the people who have the experience, like your friend, to say,
That's what I said.
yeah.
That's why he had this idea, and I
Yeah.
just know where we're at on it. I'm
Nope.
just saying that it's
That's
something to start it up.
No, absolutely, it's a great idea. And, you know, we're going about, HR has an open door policy. I have an open door policy. When new employees come to me, I talk to them about the open door. And I realize a lot of people aren't gonna come down here because what are you doing down in the mayor's office, right? Because people are gonna see them. I got out of the habit because of COVID, but one of the things that I learned when I was in the Navy is manage by walking around, and you get what you inspect, not what you expect. And so I tend to walk around and talk to people and ask them questions, and I tell them, I'm gonna ask you questions, you know, it's not, you know, how's your wife and kids today? What are we doing for you? Or do you have the right PPE? Are we doing a good job by you? And with that information that I get, I can bring that back and talk to management. Now, I don't play gotcha with management because that's not fair to management to say, hey, I found out something, why don't you know this? But if I hear or find out things that don't quite make sense or where we can do better, I can go back to management and say, you may or may not be aware of this, but what are we doing about this? And then approach it from that level. One of the things that we started doing after this last election was meeting with the unions and then the non-union to talk about, you know, where can we go? How can we make things better? So we are continuing to do that, but I would like to talk to you about your recruitment idea, because I think that's a tremendous idea. Councilor Piazza.
I just want to say, I think it's a great idea. One of the things, hopefully it can connect in some way. So when my daughter was at a magnet school in elementary school, they had somebody who developed a group, because statistically they found when kids visit colleges when they're younger, in elementary school, they tend to go to college. So when she was in junior high, she was one of the candidates to be possibly a candidate in high school for the Martin Luther King Scholarship Award. So it's through that association that they apply, minorities apply, and then they decide on that. So I think working with other associations that represent minorities is a great place to go to encourage, but the younger we start it, where they know the opportunity is, the better, I think, the better pool and the better probably recruitment we could get, instead of just maybe higher in high school, what kind of grab methods, you know, just encourage much younger, where they're preparing their minds and their education for it. Right, exactly.
Councilor McKay, you had a comment?
Now, I just, one of the things that you said really resonated with me is that a lot of times people are culturally have this perception that they can't reach out or they're not going to be able to apply. So us reaching out and saying, hey, yeah, you are, here it is, and we'll train you is a
Right.
good idea.
I know that for sure. Not to cut you off. I mean, I know that firsthand. You know, even the college thing which she was talking about. Like my mom told me I was going to college. You know, I was like told me. You know, I had friends that, you know, they didn't know anything about it until they talked to either my family or somebody else, or I got somebody that's like, listen, you know, it's, you know, we, you know, may have a perception of like, all right, well, if you don't apply, you just don't want it. But there's a whole
Right.
other dynamic that
There's
just,
the
like, just
mindset
don't
there.
know, can't even grasp that that's a possibility.
Right.
And it's still real, you know. And I'm the one, like, I'm the type of person where you get whatever you want to get. You guys know me, you know. There's no excuses in my book. You get what you get. But I'm saying that we at least have to make an attempt to be like, all right, to let them know this is a feasible possibility.
There's
you
a
know?
lot of great resources people out there
There-
that could do a
there-
fantastic job, but they just don't even know
Yeah.
that they
There
can
are,
reach out.
but they also have to do their part, and they have to be qualified, right? It is reaching out to increase the applicant flow, so we have more people applying, and then you select,
I got you.
Look
I got
off.
you. A lot of that has to do, and I know we got a lot to do, but a lot of that has to do, like, you know, I mean, even me being a trooper, you know, a lot of that has to be with perception. You know, you see somebody that looks like you, you're like, oh wow, I can do it. You know, so you know, we see some of these linemen that are, you know, minorities or of color or women, you know,
Yep.
even. You're like, oh wow, I didn't know a woman can do that job, you know. So
Right.
it's a lot more than just, you know, us going to apply. But that's all I'm saying, you know.
okay? Anything, Councilor Sheffield?
Councilor Carter, the city of Groton, through our former mayor, Marion Galbraith, and myself, we met with the former principal of Fitch High School. This was back in 2013, and I can't remember. Yes, and he was reaching out to community leaders across the different sections of Groton. We all met at the Groton Public Library to discuss ways of minorities getting jobs locally in the community. Of course, I've worked at Stop and Shop for over 30 years. I've recruited tons of kids over the years to come to Stop and Shop. I told them, you know, give me a call anytime. If these kids need a job or whatever, I can get them started to the process. It never got followed through, sadly. And this is my concern as far as if we go to a school like Grosso, are the school leaders, counselor, even the principal, because if the principal's gonna come down and talk to us and then not follow through, that's a big problem. So hopefully, if Grosso comes through and helps out these kids get a job at GU, obviously it's a benefit. But we could certainly, if they want to get together with members of the community, any of us council members, and then for us to reach out to a kid or vice versa, or they have someone to give to us, and then we can give it to Linda or to the mayor. That's exactly what should be done. And we had that opportunity 8 years ago, and it didn't get followed through. So
Okay.
that's something that has to happen.
Anything else on this? All right, thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Director of Utilities, you're up for 742. We'll start with Mark Tabella with Medici.
We got a few items to go through tonight. I wanted to start with something, if it was okay with the mayor. We talked about discussing through an emergency purchase order process. Is that okay to bring up first?
We're in a special meeting now.
So the answer is no.
Okay, I'll
Thank
put
you.
that aside for the next time.
Well, and normally I would, but it is a special meeting and you can only bring up what's on the agenda.
But we can talk about it at the next mayor council
We can
meeting.
talk about the next mayor and council meeting.
So, you can think about it too.
Well, does it apply to one of these items?
No.
No,
No,
it'll just
this
be,
is-
it's just informational only and
Got
to,
it. Never mind.
so we, yeah, and we can discuss it next.
Got it. We'll discuss it at
Yep.
another meeting, because this is a special meeting. You're right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. The first one, we've got a series of purchases to go through. The first one is, it's an annual renewal for $108,000 to Medici LLC, which is Mark DeBella, our lobbyist. Our lobbyist, we included this year's report from a month or two ago in your package. And we do work with Mark routinely to get grants, and he was pivotal in getting the $15 million grant for the filtration plant project. And he routinely works with the state in other grants for the city right across the board. He represents the utility, but he works and does good for the city as a whole. And on any of these, any questions, or if you want me to talk longer, I will.
Okay, any Deputy Mayor Depot?
On the sheet that we got, it says this is not an approved budget item. I'm assuming that's an error.
No, it is yep.
And then what is, so the coming year is $108,000. Is that the same amount we've paid them the year prior, or has it
Yes,
increased?
no increase this year.
No increase, okay.
There was a slight increase the year before.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this line item? Okay, hearing none, I'd need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 12/6/21.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. North Star Harris Billing.
The North Star billing system is what customer services uses to track all the bills, do all the billing, and track all the interactions with the customers. So all of customer service logs into this daily. It's a budgeted item. It's an annual renewal, and it does split through the company at the 60-30-10 split, so 60% electric, 30% water, 10% wastewater. And then Bosra Light and Power pays its portion as well.
This is basically an annual fee for the maintenance of the system. Any questions for the director? Okay, hearing none, need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 12/6/21.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Electric truck?
Annually, the utility budgets for replacement of trucks. This year, we're having a hard time getting any trucks. If Bill is saying that his trucks are a year and a half to 2 years out there, he's lucky because our line trucks are running almost 2 years. We have 2 on order from a long time ago, and we're about to get 1 from 2 years ago. This is just a routine replacement of a large truck that actually has a Tommy liftgate in the back to bring stock up and down. We're replacing a turbo diesel that has 141,000 miles, and it's a 2012.
Deputy Mayor Depot?
This says that we only received 1 bid. How do we?
We did only receive 1 bid. We have been bidding, we've bid 3 different trucks lately, and we've been unable to get any bids on several of the packages. We did have this vendor that did this bid.
Is this vendor is this a vendor that would be on like a state-approved list, or is this a vendor that we've used before?
I believe they benchmarked the price against the state list, because when I saw the evaluation, it was against the state bid list. Do you remember that, Ron?
No, I do not recall what they
It
state.
was benchmarked against it. 'cause
I know
saw the
normally
state
they
list.
do.
That's how, if we only receive 1 bid, we know that it's competitive. It's a big diesel. It's not a small truck.
I just want to point out, because obviously the public can't see our little sheet that we have, but it looks like our annual repair on this truck is $27,000. So buying a new truck for $69,000 seems pretty reasonable to stop having to pay that annual cost to repair it.
And the diesels are expensive to maintain once you start losing it.
Okay. All right. Anything else? I need a motion to move this mayor and council meeting at 12/6/21.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you. Mutual aid?
As everybody's aware, in August, we had Hurricane Henry approaching, and in preparations for that, even though GU does a really good job getting the power back normally, we did request 8 crews to come up for mutual assistance, because we thought we were going to endure a direct hit to both Basra and to Groton. So we made the call to have Greenville Utilities, which is actually GU in North Carolina, actually came to the rescue and started driving up. We turned them around somewhere around Washington to drive back, but it was 8 crews and I believe at least 4 trucks and a supervisor. And the resulting bill for doing that was $60,000. This is to pay for that bill to the utility.
Deputy Mayor Depot?
When was the last time that we had to call for mutual aid for a storm?
We have not paid for mutual aid since I've been here. We have a deal and generally use Norwich, where we would call Norwich Utility, and they would call us. They have used us while I've been here within the last 5 to 6 years, and we have billed them for that, but we have not utilized them that I'm aware of.
I know that the storm didn't hit the way we thought. If the storm had hit the way that the emergency service said it would we have been able to restore power quickly without an extra crew?
I think the simple answer to that is probably no.
The storm was originally forecasted to hit in Madison and actually hit in Westerly. As a result of that, we did not see the 5-foot storm surges that were projected by NOAA. We also did not see the wind gusts, the elevated wind gusts that were projected by NOAA. And so, but we had already mobilized these guys. Yeah.
This decision was not made lightly either. It was a recommendation from the electric crew in the operations side that was run through all of management before we did this.
Part of the decision to go this route was that the state, Eversource and other places were staffing up and mobilizing because they thought this was gonna be the storm of the century based on accounts. In the past, we have waited for the storm to hit and then reached out to NEPA, which is the New England Power Association, which is basically Connecticut up, to see if they had crews that they could provide here. There was a concern that this storm was gonna be so big that it would just go up through Maine, and therefore none of the crews would be available. So the decision was, this was why the decision was made. Looking at it now, you know, through the rearview mirror, you can say, well, maybe not. But with the information that we had at the time, that's why that decision was made. But I wanted to make sure, you know, you guys knew the norms and those kind of things. I want to say, Councilor Sheffield has his hand up first. Go ahead, Councilor Sheffield.
Do we have an invoice for this work that,
Yeah,
Yes, we have an invoice and we actually cut a purchase order to pay it.
you've
So this
already-
this is being run through is a confirming emergency purchase order cut.
So has the funds already been dispersed?
Yes.
So we're dispersing funds without notification of the council?
So the question is, we've already spent the funds, why are we coming to council? And why did we go to the utility commission?
I mean, you can answer, I can answer, but I believe that's the way the purchasing policy does it. For emergency purchase orders, the decision is made to move ahead, and then we go to commission and council with a confirming action and resolution.
So during emergencies, we have done this before, during emergencies, I'll give you a most recent example. When our diesel generator broke here, when the not the evaporator, condenser, radiator. When the radiator had a hole in it, I made the decision to authorize mobilization of a crew to fix it and to rent another generator to have that. And then I came through utility commission and through council based on the emergency required in order to maintain power.
Well, the difference this time is nothing, no work was done. So,
Okay.
in this case.
Okay, so here's the deal. I got a storm that's coming, and I've been told it's gonna be the storm of the century with a 5-foot surge and 50 to 70 mile an hour gusts. And I call you and I say, I need you to come up. Can you come up? And you say, absolutely, I'll be there. The storm doesn't happen. Sorry, Councilor Sheffield, and I'm not gonna pay you because the storm didn't happen. And you said, yeah, but I'm in DC. So,
Well, the issue,
I
I
you
get
know,
that part.
right? Well, hold on, let him explain it then. I don't need you to explain what he's saying. So what is your concern?
Well, the
And-
concern is that, again, council wasn't notified that this is already gonna be dispersed, and obviously, work wasn't done, so we're out $60,000, obviously not, for services not incurred, so, and of course, we don't even have an invoice.
No,
So,
the,
I mean, we haven't seen the invoice, you probably have it, but we
Right.
haven't seen it.
yes, it was a T&M invoice, paid for services rendered.
Hold on, Councilor first.
So clearly, it's already, this is one of those things where, I mean, we've had it before, this happened before. where it's, the money's gone, right? So it's like we have to pass this so we can move forward, right? But and I'm not gonna speak for Counselor Sheffield, I'll speak for myself. I understand the call is an emergency, I understand that. As soon as we called it off, knowing that we're gonna have to pay full price, it probably would have been in best interest to say, listen, we called it off, explain to them, this is emergency money that's coming, for an emergency, but we called it off. We have to run this by council. I know you want your full amount, but I just want to make sure that's okay with the council. And while we're doing that, kind of think about, are you going to work with us to pay half or some type of fee? Was paying, that was the full amount, correct?
It was just for the time that they drove up to DC and turned around. Had they helped us, we
That
would
w-
have had hundreds of thousands.
Oh,
of
so that was
dollars.
$80,000 for them to drive to DC?
As you said, linemen get paid well.
Well, I mean, some of these crews could have, I mean, there's different numbers,
It
one
was
or
8
two.
crews, 16 people, 8 trucks.
So we had to pay for their meals too?
Was that in the package?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, it's already gone, but I think in an emergency situation like this, when we move away from kind of standardized practice, as far as reaching out to the, what the mayor, I forget the agency, I think when it comes to this, I think maybe needs to be some type of, standardized protocol or something, and this is, it's, because there's no, and again, I don't want to speak to Councilor Sheffield, but there's nothing saying, I mean, what if whoever owns, or these utilities, I mean, this could be somebody's friend, and then you said, all right, come on up, and I'm gonna cancel you, and you get 60 grand, I mean, there's just nothing that, and this is the reason why this is kind of set up and passed through us. So if this is a case where it is, okay, hey, this is my buddy from college, and, this is 60 grand, that's putting our name on something that has already been approved. So again, I'm not gonna speak for Councilor Sheffield, but I think that's kind of what we're getting at.
Councilor Piazza?
Yes, I believe I'm understanding Councilor Sheffield and Councilor Carter's concern. I'm just wondering, you had mentioned your words were emergency purchasing policy. Do we actually have one laid out? It would actually go back to what is our emergency purchasing policy and what are the steps to that and where does the council fit in that for notification. So it sounds like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this is something that can be approved. That's what I'm understanding, and that I'm assuming that when we activated these people, that you already had in mind what it was possibly going to be for them to come up and assist. It could have been probably more, some kind of contingency. But since they were called off, I'm assuming that it was already known that we were gonna have to pay them something. And assuming also that, geez, wonder if we call it off, we're gonna have to pay them something for the travels. I'm assuming travels and food and hotel and everything is managed into that. So in some way, I can understand the expense, but in some way, there seems to be a concern about, how do we go about approval of this? How does the council get notified? And so do we have an emergency purchasing policy and notifying the council in that? Is there one? And could we get a copy of that so we know what the steps are?
Ron, you want to
Yeah,
address?
there's a section in the purchasing policy for the utilities, and we can get you a copy of that.
Why do we have to, for, in this case, if he made an emergency
All right,
call.
Hold on. You weren't recognized, Councilor, Deputy Mayor Depot had her
Okay,
hand.
that's fine.
Deputy Mayor Depot,
So-
you have the floor.
The way I'm thinking of this, and when I looked at it in my packet, the pricing of this, I'm guessing, as our guys are in unions, these guys are probably also in unions. This is probably not a price that we could have negotiated. They probably have in their contract for mutual aid that if you go to mutual aid, you get meals, you get overnight stay and all of that. So, and it also looks like this is coming out of operating funds, and it is going to be in our budgeted operating funds. It's not like we're going we're not pulling money from somewhere else for this. This is something that we plan. I agree and I understand that it's obviously not ideal to spend money on something that didn't happen, but I know the residents I talk to, they don't want their power out for 2 weeks. And if this is the only way to make sure that the power comes back on, the storm hit up here, and if we could pull resources to possibly mitigate that, I mean, it makes sense to me. I also, we've talked about the emergency purchasing, policy before, and there's no functional way for this to have come to council first, timing wise, because it also has to go to the utility commission. So we get it after utility commission gets it, so it's like, it's much delayed, it doesn't come straight to us, which means even the shortest possible time frame of it would be weeks because of the utility commission meeting schedule. So, while it's not ideal, I mean, this is particularly high price thing that doesn't happen that often. Even the last time with the generator, obviously not the same kind of expense, but while I understand that it's difficult to swallow that fee, it is in our budget to pay for mutual aid when we need it. And I think everyone was expecting this storm to be huge, so I don't think it's unreasonable.
So let me ask council this.
Can I say something first before you, or no?
Councilor Carter, you have the floor.
Yeah, just 2 seconds. Yeah, so I mean, I know that this is nothing. I wasn't speaking on behalf of this is gonna kill the city's pockets, I'm gonna go back to my last statement, where it's just kind of it's kind of blankish for us to vote on something that we didn't approve. So I'm thinking or asking why, when the mayor makes these emergency decisions, why can't it just be that? He's making these emergency decisions. Why do we have to then vote on this? Because we have nothing to do with this. So if something did happen, it could be anything, right? As far as even your decision on making or deciding on who you hired, right? That doesn't put us anywhere. This is your decision. So why do we have to vote for this? That's where my question was. I wasn't talking about the money. That's nothing. Well, for you.
The reason why it comes to you with the purchasing policy, it's an over $50,000 expenditure. But so what we could do based on what I'm hearing, if that is something that you want us to look into and make it more that it's going forward, any emergency purchase that is approved by the mayor, that it just comes to council for informational purposes
It makes
only.
no sense for us to vote on
We
it.
can-
That's what I'm saying. That's the only thing I'm saying.
We can look into that.
Why vote on a done deal?
Well, we gotta,
But we need to look at it and
Well,
review it to make sure
we
that we
need to
cover
look at
everything.
what the policy says. We also need to look at the utility commission, because the utility commission, when it comes to the utility commission thing says, recommend approval and blah, 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 with the concurrence, and recommend that the city council concur, or something like that. I forget what the added sentence is that gets it here. So we need to make sure that we're not violating our current policies and those kinds of things. I understand your concern. If the concern is we're bringing something to you to pay that we've already spent money on and didn't ask you up front, I get that. Because there have been occasions since 2017 that I've come here.
We've asked the same question.
That I have
though.
been here, that the utilities has come and said, okay, mea culpa. And I do not do well with that, because we have a procedure, we have a policy. But what I was going to propose, the scenario I was going to give to the council is that if we had waited to mobilize these guys until we lost power, and the storm had been as bad as it was projected to be, we could have been, as it was, we had people that lost power for a day to 2 days, and people were screaming. I had people call me up and said, I've been without power for 12 hours. What's wrong with you guys? And and part of that is the utility is a victim of its own success. And the fact that they do such a great job in restoration of power, and the fact that other companies have not been that good, and they were penalized for it publicly, people now say, okay, I have an expectation that I'm gonna have power on maximum of 24 hours is the maximum that I'll be without power. And I've had people tell me that. I had people call me up. The night recently when the tree came across off Pfizer property and hit the line and took power down around Eastern Point and all that down, and it took about 24 hours for that to get restored, and part of that was because the person that owned the group that owned the pole didn't get out there to replace the pole and all that stuff. People were texting me on my phone saying, why's it taking so long? What's going on? Right? And so this is the challenge, that we are up against. So we will understand your concerns. We'll take it back. We'll look at it. We'll come back. We'll give you a brief. I'm not sure if it'll be the next meeting, but we'll come up with something. I mean, typically, if this was something that should have been and we screwed this up, then I would expect you to be really, really upset. If it's an emergency, we do the best that we can to try to manage emergencies and then keep people posted. Let's see, I think Councilor Sheffield had his hand up. Go ahead, Councilor Sheffield.
My concern, we're at November 29th. The storm was in August, and now we're getting this notice that, we have to vote on something that happened 3 months ago that's already been dispersed. We could have discussed this after Labor Day, but here we're in,
Well, what if it doesn't?
we're in
Well,
November.
hold, stop.
Just for clarification, we were waiting on the bill. The bill date was 10/28.
So you waited on a bill for 2 months?
This is not us, this was coming from them.
Even more
We didn't
so.
get the bill to 10:28.
We didn't get the
But
bill.
even more so.
That was their bill
even
date.
more so.
From a storm that happened in August?
Right.
How is that?
They weren't in a hurry.
It's a municipal utility. We don't operate at lightning speed. Additionally, we did not expect that bill to be over $50,000.
Oh, so
We
you
were,
did.
we did not actually expect that bill
Okay.
to be over $50,000.
Okay.
You can guess at what it was. We figured we had operating funds to cover it. It was well discussed internally with management, and we expected the bill to come in. It was a little bit higher than what we thought.
And it got brought to my attention, and I said, you gotta bring it to Utility Commission, and you gotta bring it to council, because it wasn't budgeted, it was over $50,000. Or even if it was budgeted, it was over $50,000, it's gotta come.
Has it been paid?
Cause that's,
Did
That's what
anyone,
we're talking.
did anyone
Well,
ask for an
I'm just saying,
estimate
if the bill
prior
came
to
out late,
the
We
emergency
paid it real fast.
authorization?
no, because you don't know what it's gonna be until, if I ask you to come and fix an emergency, but the emergency hadn't happened yet, you can't give me an estimate.
Yeah, but you
And
gave
you
room
won't
and
give me an
board.
estimate.
But you gave them room and board, you had all that was included. I mean, you couldn't get at least a round up, not exact, but something?
I'm not gonna say we couldn't have called down there to try to get an estimate on it, but I must admit, we were so relieved after the storm, you kinda,
Hold on a minute, are you talking about before the fact or after the fact?
Well, as you're asking for the emergency, that's where the invoice comes in.
You know what you're gonna pay T&M when we ask. We just don't know how many people they're gonna send, what buckets they're gonna send, and for how long. That's where the T&M comes in, right?
right, but it is based on the contract with the utility that you contract for, because they're billing you at basically the cost. And for linemen, is a
So-
general rule, it's billed from when you call, when they leave,
So could we do
till they
this?
go back.
Could we get an estimate? I mean, is there a way to,
Moving forward, you mean?
It's already done.
yeah, moving forward? Hold on a sec, all right, everybody, hold on a second. Deputy Mayor Depot, you have the floor.
Well, a couple things. In terms of bringing things to us after it's already been paid, to me, I think if we didn't do that, it reduces the importance of that going through our review. Now, obviously, we're not going to not approve money that's already been paid. However, it gives us the opportunity to say, this was not an okay, like, manner. We don't like the way that this was done. If it only comes to us as information, it's not, it doesn't give it the same weight, in my opinion. And right now, it might not be a problem, but our policies and procedures are made for all times, not necessarily the council we have or the mayor we have or the utility director that we have right now. So my concern would be if we reduce the importance of these items, you might get someone who will make things an emergency and then come after and explain why it's an emergency and not give you the opportunity because it's just information, so you're not voting on it anyway.
That's the same
So
thing.
that, I would appreciate it not to be interrupted.
It is the same thing.
It may be the same
Counselor
thing
Depot has the
to
floor.
one person, but I think it, to an employee who has to get approval, you might get an employee who asks for forgiveness more often than they should because it's not that hard. Because it doesn't go through this rigorous process of discussion because it's just information only. Because generally the things that were brought as information only are lower in priority or not urgent. So that would be my concern, is that there would be situations that maybe weren't truly an emergency, or we wouldn't get the opportunity to analyze so much because it's not viewed as important enough to be voted on. So I'm not sure what the answer is. I'm just saying, like, I am wary of reducing the importance of items like this because it does lend itself to higher importance when it's in this type of discussion as opposed to like an information-only discussion. The other thing is, I have worked for a company and done billing. It is not rare. I've billed some companies 100 days out. So it's not weird for us to get a bill 45 days out or 60 days out. I don't think that is definitely, in my experience as a bookkeeper, that's not an exceptionally long period of time. I do think the most we probably could have done for an estimate would be to go, if we have them 1 day, this is how much, 2 days, this is how much, 3 days, this is how much, and maybe we could have figured out about how much it would have cost within a couple weeks. We could have come up with an estimate from the hourly numbers ourselves if we had that. So maybe in the future, I don't know if we request a copy of their contract, but maybe that's something we could do for mutual aid, is say, can we have a copy of your compensation so that we can put together an estimate as quickly as possible once the emergency's over? Because that would be, I would think, the only way you could really do that, because you can't predict, like, we couldn't have predicted they were gonna turn around in 2 days, after one overnight or whatever the time frame was. But maybe we could have made an estimate ourselves, had we known the number of people, the rate they are paid, and all of that stuff.
Who wants their hand up?
Yeah. All right. So,
Counselor Carter, you have the
please.
floor.
Oh, thank you. So, in my opinion, the level of importance, which Deputy Major was saying, kind of went out the window when we found this out 3 months later. So that's that. The second thing is I think that even discussing an action that the mayor or the director has through the mayor, I think is just as valid as asking us to vote on something that we had no part of. It's just simply, we're not voting on something that we had no part of. The same discussion can have with the simple information. This is why we spent $60,000. You're still gonna get the questions on why you had to spend and why you acted, and you're gonna say, okay, thank you for making that decision for the city. I think, and this on my behalf, is just the kind of backward stuff. And I know that there has been a couple occasions where the mayor has had to make certain decisions based off of emergency. When you order a breaker or whatever it was down in the city, that's 100% something that needs to be done. That's a lot different than just, calling upon a vendor or a municipality that we know nothing of, that we're issuing funds to, that we're approving the issue of funds to. If the mayor made that decision, I think that we need to look at changing some type of charter or whatever is written, that if you made that decision, that's that decision. You follow up with us and tell us this is why you make that decision, why you made that decision. The way it stands now, What's gonna happen if we shut it down? What's gonna happen if we don't approve? Then what? Nobody has a question. Nobody has the answers to that. So that's why we have to do it this way. We have to look at changing this, where if you make a decision, then that's that decision. Just follow up and just tell us why in a good, efficient amount, respected amount of time, where we're kind of not just looked at as like, okay, it needs, because right now what I feel as a counselor is that the only reason why I know this is because the charter says that I have to know this, not because the mayor and the director wanted to give us the information. So I'd rather you make a discussion, make a decision as a counselor and just discuss and tell us why, okay, you're the leader of the city, respect the leader of the city, this is what I did and this is why I did it, and then it would be just done with. But to go and ask us, and not you, the charter says to go and ask us to have to say yes to something that's already been approved, that makes zero sense to me. And again, and I pose the question of what if we shut it down, then what? You know, that's it.
I think we already have a lookup, that we're gonna look at the policy and come back and brief council. And then we'll have to decide whether or not we wanna change our policies. And we can, now, but.
For the record, I'm okay to move forward with this.
Understand.
Okay, all right.
You, as a council, may not be, well, actually, if it's the policy, it goes to the utility commission and here, right?
Correct. It's right now, this is a policy. This isn't a charter. The charter is the 10,000
The 10,000.
unbudgeted.
And because this was a utility, it doesn't fall under the charter. I did say charter, but, it is our purchasing policy, 1004, right? The GU policy. And therefore, it's gotta go through utility commission and council. So it's, there's two bites of the apple. Counselor Sheffield.
Yeah, like I said, we've seen this bad movie before a few years ago when we made an authorization, and I had mentioned, along with former Deputy Larry Garish, that it was going to be setting a bad precedent by allowing funds to be dispersed prior to approval of the council. Here we are. And I think we need to establish some sort of ordinance of some kind or some kind of policy to make sure these things do not keep reoccurring. And this is, to me, I think, something that we have to set some strict guideline to where we don't have this problem again. So.
Okay. Let's go to first-time speakers. Councilor McCabe.
Well, I agree that there should be a policy, but in this particular case, because it was an emergency situation, we employed these people, they had to be paid, so it doesn't matter, we got the bill, we incurred the cost. To me, we have to pay it. So I think the funds would still need to be dispersed. We can't just stiff people that answered our call in a state of emergency. So.
And I agree with you,
Hold on.
except the fact that.
Wait, stop. You do not have the floor.
Okay,
You do not have the floor.
Okay.
I'm done.
We are not another organization. We are the city council. Also, make sure your microphone is on.
Oh, I shut it off.
Okay. Did you finish?
Yes.
Okay. Any other speakers? Councilor Sheffield.
Yeah, I totally agree. But again, we didn't know the significance, again, of the bill, which, like I said, we got in October. The storm was in August. I think something needs to be expedited a lot quicker so we can have a quicker approval process so this doesn't happen like that. We shouldn't be waiting till November 29th to have it move forward into December and make a final determination. So to me, that's a problem. And again, like I said, we've seen the bad movie before to where money has been dispersed without the council's notification or approval. And obviously, something like this, to where no work was done, It's one thing if there was actual work to be done and tell us later, okay. But they turned around and went home. We got stuck with a bill that came 2 months later. What was it based on?
Can I just clarify one thing?
Yeah.
Just in regards to the bill, this is not uncommon, even from GU. If we have a car versus pole, we want to make sure that we get all of our expenses in to make sure that we bill everything that comes in. And you can see in the packet, one of the toll invoices that they received, they didn't even receive it until September 28th, meaning Greenville, on their tolls. So that's why they're going to wait, because they want to make sure they incorporate in the bill all of their expenses. I get what the council's saying as far as if we have an estimate or it come beforehand from that standpoint. But that's just the billing. And like I said, I know in Basra, we wait to bill because we're waiting for police reports from the state. And it's, do you bill it and just eat that cost, or do you kind of wait? It's a juggling act, but just kind of the timing of it, and that's why it takes.
And we got this 28 October. When, Director G'day, when was the Utility Commission meeting? Week before last, right?
Right, 2 weeks ago.
So it went to the Utility Commission as soon as it could. It went here as soon as it could. You would have seen it last week, which is only 1 week sooner, but you would have seen it last week, which is one of the things that we've changed since I got here, was we changed when the Utility Commission meeting is so that we can bring these things to the Committee of the Whole instead of bringing them straight to you at the Mayor and Council meeting, which used to be before I got here, right? So we're changing that. Now, I do want to, the thing that you talked about, that you and Deputy Mayor Garris talked about, I think that was a different circumstance. I think that was a circumstance where the utility was coming to you and said, Mother May I, or Mea Copa, because it was something they should have brought and they didn't. This is different in that it was an emergency thing. It's different in that it wasn't spent and then, oops, shit, we did not come to you. This was an emergency that was authorized, the expenditure was given, and then when we got it billed, it then went to the Utility Commission, and then it came to us. So, Councilor Piazza.
I think I understand a lot of how I look at it is, of course, I look at like everything I experience, and either it's going to be bus driver and medical. So medical, if you're on call for something, whether you do the service or not, we're getting paid. So if I'm sitting there with some phone and you say, hey, Chris, we want you to be available for the next 8 hours, I'm getting paid. And there is some kind of contract already. There is some kind of expense that's already known. I think that's kind of like, you know, when I hear like we're expecting about 50,000, but it's 60,000. So now we're going to the 10,000. I think this all drives back to, you can even look at it as high as the COVID. There's people making decisions, our president all the way down, that make decisions, especially in emergencies or pandemics, that make decisions. I get that and I back that up. Well, I think, not concerned, but I think to hear the words emergency purchasing policy, that's what I think I specifically need to be clear on, is the steps that we took. Because even if I had to make a decision in emergency, they say, you're going to make the decision, Chris, on whether you got to do this or this and this medically, let's say. And I make that call. I still have policies and things to look at when I make those decisions. And then if they're going to say, hey, Lisa, do you agree with this? And you're going to be like, you made that decision without me knowing? You see what I'm saying? So should I be notifying Lisa? Was I supposed to notify Lisa? So that's what we need to drive to. Should we have been notified? Is there something written that we were supposed to be notified in some way, shape, or form? And if it's not specific enough, then we need to clarify that. So I go back to, we have all this information, I understand the concerns, but we need to go back to what is written and was it done according to what we believe in and what we've written.
Director Yoss?
This is just a question, and I'm not saying right, wrong, or different. Would you have rather us come as an informational only and just say, we made this decision, we don't know how much it's gonna cost after the fact? That's where you're going with it. And then, even though we didn't, it may or may not meet a threshold, but just.
That'd be perfect, that would suffice for me, because at least we know and we're in the loop with things, rather than having the feeling that it's kind of after the fact. And I get what you're saying.
Okay.
As far as it had to go through its channels, but I think it's different if the mayor made the decision to use, or the director, I don't know who actually chose these this vendor, you know what I mean? So it's just a little different than say, all right, I have to get this or I have to do that. In this case, it's just a little different, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I'm saying the same thing all over again, but I get why, and I think you should have the authority to be like, this is it, this is what we're doing, absolutely, you know? But I think on cases like that,
Yep.
like I said, when you know that it could be over that threshold, like, let us know. That's what I'm saying.
Let me clear up an expectation here then. Not gonna send you a text, said I made an emergency decision. Not gonna send you an email, said I made your emergency decision. The way you get your notifications, the way you find out that we've done anything is through these meetings. So it will be at the next meeting, and it will probably be after the emergency occurred, but it will be at the next meeting that you then get notified. Can we do that?
Correct, that's kind of where we're going with it, just to do
Because
a
if I
notification that there
text
may be
you-
something coming down.
If I send you an email, it potentially sets up an illegal meeting, and I am not going to do that from a FOIA point of view. Okay? Does everybody get that?
Yep.
Was your hand up?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Deputy Mayor Depot.
I just wanted to point out, I know the circumstance that Counselor Sheffield's talking about, and that's exactly what my point was before, is we did have emergency funds expended that we, as a council, said, this was not an emergency, this is not an acceptable use of this procedure, and that stopped happening. So that was my point in if we don't have these continue to come to us, I think that it's possible, even 10 years down the road or whatever, if staff changes, that it will go back to what was happening, which is things that weren't actual emergencies were being expended and then brought to us, and we had to approve it anyways because it was already expended. So I think that voting on it, I don't know that it's the right way to do it, but I
That's my whole point. If it already got cut, what's the point of voting on it? That was my question. I think you're arguing a different thing.
Well, if the procedure says, and if the procedure says during an emergency, you do this, then you do this, and then you bring it to commission and then bring it to council, then that's the policy that we have in place. And if you want to change that, or if the utility commission and the council want to change that,
No,
then
that's a good-
we can do that.
I'm saying that's a good policy if that happens. In this case, the check was already cut, correct? He said it was already cut. So what I'm saying, in this case, where it's already completed, it's already done, then why go to us? It doesn't matter. Like, if we vote on it, what is going to happen? So I'm saying it doesn't make any sense to go to us. I understand what Deputy Mayor Depot is saying. It should go to us this is so long you don't cut the check, you know, then that keeps us in the talk. But if we're going and voting for it after, we're not even in the discussion anymore. The cut's already, what, are you gonna cancel the check?
I'm not sure we're gonna get any further here.
But that's what I'm
We have
saying. I know what
taken-
she's saying, but I don't think when I say she, I mean the
Don't-
Deputy Mayor.
Well, she can speak for herself.
Okay, well.
And I think she has spoke for herself. You can speak on your issue.
Well, I'm
about-
fine with this. I'm fine with this. I want to move
Okay.
forward because I don't want to stay at 12 o'clock, right? And I think we're all talking about the same thing. And I think
Okay.
that the people that have talked have discussed what they would like to do to move forward. And
Okay.
I think that the finance director had a good, in these cases where the check has already been cut, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And you know that's going to happen, just kind of let us know what happened. That's all I'm saying.
We have the direction from council to go review this and come back and report to council. That is what I am going to do. Are there any other comments on this that will move this forward? If not, then I would like to close this out so we can move on to something else. Councilor Piazza.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm hoping this moves it forward. I think in moving it forward, I think the verbiage in here saying council, mayor and council confirm Groton Utilities management issuance, it doesn't actually say it's been done, so if we could change the verbiage to that we're in agreement that it was completed. instead of saying, it's almost like the verbiage here is saying, we agree to send the check out. It's already been done, so if we can somehow put the verbiage in there that's already been sent and we're in agreement with that, that we understand the mayor made a decision, blah, blah, blah. But I, as a counselor, would still like to see the policy on what we do in emergency situations. I back up that emergency decisions need to be made because I've been in that same position, not yours, but in situations where you're making it. But I can't see myself saying, okay, this is your job title, this is what you're allowed to do in an emergency situation, and then I go back and say, okay, my support staff, do you agree with that? Because I've already made the decision. It really doesn't make sense. So I think moving forward, we need to change this verbiage. I would like to see, I don't know if I have it, I would like to see the policy on it, how emergency situations go, and where do I stand as a counselor in that?
So it says, therefore be it resolved, the mayor and council confirm Groton Utilities Management issuance of a purchase order. So they've already issued the purchase order, which is what it says here. So confirming it is that you're just saying, yep, you agree that it's issued. What words would you like, Director Gaudet?
When the utility issues a purchase order, that's the authorization it needs to allow a check to be cut once the invoice matches up with an okay to pay, services received. When that goes to accounts payable, it's matched up with the purchase order, and then it goes to accounts payable to cut a check after. So the purchase order is the authority to cut the check. If a check has been cut, I don't know, Ron may or may not know that, it might cut this week, you know. We did toil over that word confirm to try to,
Well, you wouldn't want to prove because it's already been cut, right? So that's why confirm.
So.
Authorize, you don't want that word.
No,
right?
so I,
It
so.
is- It is usually authorized. Right.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So I understand all the arenas here. Something had to be done in an emergency. I totally get, like, people get paid as soon as you, hey, you gotta be,
Yeah.
can you be available? And they say, yes, you know the taxi cab fare is running. I totally get that, but what I'm saying is, I can also see, like, why are we gonna vote on something that's already been done and not notified of? And but I also get too how you said, we didn't get the invoice, blah, 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 and now we're bringing it as soon as possible. So maybe moving forward, we just need to round this up and figure out what's the best way to go.
So they actually did it the way what we're saying. That actually puts our vote saying that they already confirmed it.
So basically, it boils down to if somebody has a concern, is that whether they're gonna vote yea or nay on it, or abstain from it. That's basically what it goes down to.
You're gonna be voting that this is already confirmed, that they already cut, that's what they said, because they put confirmed, they changed the wording. So that's
Correct.
actually good.
It is good, but I just wanna know what the policy is, that's all.
It's good, in this case.
Okay, where are we? I don't know who was first. Deputy Mayor Depot.
I like Counselor Piazza's idea of changing the language. This does kind of say that, but what if we changed it to affirm and agree? Because I think that's clearer with, like, what we're saying is, we agree with their decision to issue a purchase order. Right, I think that's a little clearer than confirm.
So we want.
I know it's like a really pedantic and silly, but I do think it is clearer to change it.
What was your wording?
Affirm and agree.
Affirm and agree.
I think it's just clearer so when if someone goes back and looks and says it, we can say, well, it is something, as we've discussed, maybe it's not necessary, we're gonna go back and look, maybe it's not necessary to vote on the approval, but I do think that it is important that we acknowledge and say, we agree with this decision that you made.
Can I comment or no? Yes?
Well,
No,
hold
I
on,
need
you
the
gotta
floor.
get recognized by me, because this is not a debate. All the discussion is supposed to go through the chair, not at each other. Hold on, Counselor,
No, I'm not gonna
Okay.
pile on.
okay?
Thank
Counselor.
you, Mayor. I
Piazza?
like that, I like the words. I think, just for me personally, it boils down to me personally, that I'm saying affirm and agree according to the policy. It doesn't matter when your emergency situation, people make mistakes, people make decisions that probably weren't the best. But I'm, as a counselor, saying, But what did my policy say that I would do as a counselor in an emergency situation? So I don't want to put my vote on something that I'm not following policy. That's the only thing because let me tell you, many times in decisions, that's the first thing that's pulled out as policy. Did you follow the policy?
I'm gonna give you 2 minutes.
Wait,
2 seconds.
Are you done?
2 seconds. I just want to move it forward because I think if they say she sustains, say the counselor sustains, I think we're gonna have enough votes for it to pass anyway. So
Okay.
I'm thinking we should just move on. And,
All right.
and everybody, the next time we know.
Let me be clear on what you are voting on tonight. What you are voting on tonight is to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 12/6/21.
So moved.
You are not voting
Oh, I'm
on
sorry.
the
I
motion.
thought you were ready, I'm sorry.
Now, I will tell you that my preference and what I typically try to do is to assure that if it comes out of the committee of the whole to the next mayor and council meeting, that you guys vote the affirmative in the majority to do that. It is not my intention to throw up frivolous motions just to throw spaghetti on the wall to see if you're gonna look at it. My internal clock says, bring things to the council, one, that I'm required to by policies, procedures, and charter, or two, that I think need to go through in order to move the city forward. So there is an expectation, when I bring it to you as the committee of the whole, that if you guys say, yep, we're moving it to the next meeting, that you will vote in the affirmative, or at least the majority of you will. And this is our opportunity for discussion, deliberation, and debate. And I think we've done a good job of that today. So, anything else? Okay, we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One opposed, Sheffield? Abstention? None? Motion passes. All right, Karis?
As we're aware, with the COVID situation and supply issues, we included an email that explains issues that some of our suppliers are having. And this is one of the chemicals that we use at the filtration plant to treat the drinking water. And they couldn't keep the last year they couldn't stay on the pricing agreed to on the last year of this contract due to raw material pricing increases. So we're coming to you to request an increase on this purchase order by about $20,000 to go from about $50,000 to $75,000 on this chemical.
Any discussion on this, Deputy Mayor Depot?
Increasing this, so we're going from 55 to, what was it, 75,000? How is that affecting your budget?
We have the money budgeted.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Piazza?
Thank you, Mayor. I think the only question I have is, and this is verbiage again for me for policy, is that they can't stay within the contract, understand, but did they have verbiage in the contract saying, should there be something such as natural causes that cause blah, 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 like we see in many contracts? Was that in the contract? If it was, totally understandable. If it's not, I kind of question whether or not they should be allowed to increase it. I mean, if peoples of America have to agree to that, to natural causes, that this will happen, you can't have it, or we can increase it at any time, then I feel like the verbiage, I'm not sure what the verbiage was in it, if it said, we may increase within the contract if such and such, like a general thing, we may need to increase it, I agree, but if it's not in there, I don't see,
Yeah.
do you see kind of what I'm saying?
100% agree. At the manager level, the managers actually in the operating group were tossing the contract language back and forth and the agreement back and forth, and then even push back on the vendor anyway. But they did, under duress in the current situation, it seemed to fit the contract. I didn't personally read it. That was what I was advised.
So you're saying that it did fit, the duress fit within the contract?
Yes,
Okay,
as far as I'm aware.
okay. And that was under whose clarification?
It was out of Rick Stevens and the Water Group.
Okay. Okay.
Councilor Sheffield? I thought I saw a hand.
It's gone up from how much was the original price again? 50? Okay, and it's, what'd you- 5. Oh, here we go, okay, I got it, okay. And now, all right, so it's not to exceed 75, now is inflation also a part of that, you know, on their side, are they thinking in terms of inflationary pricing factors?
It was mostly just supply of the raw materials,
Just
I'm under
supply,
the
okay.
understanding,
Okay.
which I have no doubt has inflationary factors into it, but
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Depot.
In our little packet, there is part of the contract, and there's a hardship clause on the back. I'm guessing that's where they interpreted that it was according to the contract to increase the price, because the hardship clause says, if during the course of this contract, raw material costs or the cost of the components to produce and deliver the goods were to increase significantly, seller reserves the right to pass on the entire cost of the increase or some portion thereof in the form of a surcharge for as long as this condition persists. I'm guessing that's where they interpreted that that fits the contract and why they included it in here, because they knew we were gonna question it.
yeah, thank you so much. Your package actually has that, mine doesn't.
Councilor McCabe, you had your hand up?
No, I was just sitting like this,
Oh,
so
my apologies.
it kind of looked like it.
Any other questions on this? All right, I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting at 12/6/21.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Wesco?
This switchgear is actually, is a switch that feeds this building. This building is fed by 2 ways off 2 different circuits in case one circuit goes out. The switch is archaic, it's old, it's an old FS6 gas containing switch, which we're trying to remove from the system. So it's basically just an upgrade to a part in the distribution system. It happens to feed this building.
Okay. Any questions for the director? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting at 12/6/21.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, the M-Spec 38 kV hook stick disconnect switches.
I'm gonna try to do the next 3 in tandem.
Okay,
The first one is for low voltage gear for the transmission upgrade project. The second one is for high voltage gear for the transmission project. And the very last part is for breakers that correlate with those upgrades at the Buddington substation, all related to the transmission project. At the Utility Commission, there was an active discussion over low voltage and high voltage system and the way it all interacts, and it ended up being very technical, but these 3 motions all feed that central design that is being developed by the engineering firm, and these parts and pieces are what they are recommending.
so they're gonna rebuild this portion, actually, new build part of it, rebuild part of it. The high voltage part is part of the transmission coming in. The low voltage part belongs to the utility and is coming out. Is that fairly
Yeah.
accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And then the breakers are part of it. Counselor Piazza?
Thank you. So I noticed there's a 25% contingency. We talked about this way earlier, when we talked about contingency. So it's the higher contingency because,
So the higher contingency is because we can't get a quote that will last longer than 2 weeks, and we can't get approval within 2 weeks. The last thing that we may bring you as we talk about emergency procurement is that maybe price increasing in these large contingencies should be a discussion at the management level to allow a triggering of a purchase to save. To date, if we had been more nimble with our purchasing, the utility could have saved well over $100,000 that we have documented just by price increases right now.
So that is a discussion we'll bring later, which is probably going to be a fairly spirited discussion, because it goes back to a decision gets made based on the information that you have that day to move forward with something that could change. And then, but we would need to, one, come up with a policy and have a policy change for that so that it's codified, so that it cannot be used in a bad way, for lack of a better term. But, I mean, that's one of the concerns that I always have. One of the challenges is to ensure that this council and the utility commission is overseeing the utility and not the other way around. To make, to put boundaries and protocols in place, so not to keep them from doing their job, but to keep them from abusing their positions and their job to go off and do things without proper permissions. So that's the balance that we're looking for.
Yeah, in the end, all of this is about communication. Because the added communication, in better communication on exactly even how the storms and things go, makes everybody more comfortable with where we're going and what happens. Sometimes these meetings get so long, you don't know what to add.
Okay, so we'll move these one at a time. Need a motion to move the M-Spec 38 kV hook stick disconnect switches to the mayor and council meeting at 12/6/21.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Need a motion to move M-Spec 123 kV disconnect switches to the mayor and council meeting at 12/6/21.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. And the last one is to move the Seaman Energy breakers to the mayor and council meeting at 12/6/21.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you, Director. Good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
All right, we're going to move to 561, which is Groton Utilities Financial, which is informing.
So we'll start on page 6. We'll just do our normal walkthrough of the October financials year to date. So we'll start with the electric division. The total electric revenue is $16.5 million versus budget of $16 million, or $500,000 favorable to budget. And you can see the main driver there is the residential class. The row 41, total operating expenses, is just about 17 million versus a budget of 17.3, or 309,000 favorable. Row 66, net income before bond principal requirements, is 2 million versus a budget of 1.3, or 718,000 favorable. Again, the favorable variance to budget and the net income is based on the currently over budget, exceeding the budget on the revenue side and being under budget on the operating expense side. Again, the residential class is the main carrier for the over budgeted revenue of the 337,000. And then with the operating, there's just been some delays in some of the IT projects and customer care projects, which is why that is under budget, among some other operating things. So nothing out of the line as of now for the electric. Everything's running right on track.
Any questions on electric? Okay, well, let's move to water.
We'll turn to page 12. Row 17, total water revenue is just over 4 million versus a budget of, again, just over 4 million, or, and it's about 37,000 under budget, from the revenue standpoint. And if you look up, you can see the sale for resale is, driving that currently, and that can be a seasonal piece based on other entities that, we need to provide water to. So that's the main, but for the most part, it's on budget, only the 37,000 below. Row 30, total operating expenses is 3.2 million versus a budget of 3.8 million, or $637,000 favorable. The row 44, the net earnings before the DWSRF grant is 940,000 versus a budget of 30,000, or $900,000 favorable. What I want to point out there, the reason why we're seeing such a favorable variance there when we look at 44 in the net earnings before the DWSRF grant, it's based on the delay in the water treatment plant project. That project has been pushed off the completion piece, so that means that we haven't had to start paying back the loan to the state yet, which we anticipated. So the interest piece of it, and then also on row 27, you'll see the depreciation is significantly under budget, again, because the plant is not up online yet and it hasn't started the depreciation factor. So this picture that it's showing is not the whole picture. It's really just due to the delay of the plant going online 100%.
So what should the council, because we had this discussion with the utility commission as well, what should the council expect once we start paying, one, interest on the bond, and two, start depreciation?
It'll start flowing back depending on the timing of when the loan starts and the decision, because we can delay payment of that for 1 year, but then you're still paying the interest on it, and we're paying the interest on it all, so it probably doesn't make sense. We're gonna look at it, so you'll see that there'll be a fairly large interest payment going out. The depreciation will stay under budget because that's truly a timing issue of when it gets placed in service. However, going forward in next year's budget, you'll see that it'll start tracking online. So it looks like it's a great story that we're 900,000, but if the plant was up and running on time, we would be more in line with budget.
And you will see expenses start to go up. Okay, any questions on water? All right, sewer?
And then page 17. The row 15, the total sewer revenue is at 1.3 million versus a budget of 1.35, or 42,000 under budget. The main driver there is the industrial class, which is 54,000 under budget, and that's due to a significant increase in the deduct meters that we're seeing from the sewer from one of our large industrial customers. If you recall, towards the end of last year, they were not allowed to deduct based on some issues with their meters. They got that fixed. It came back online, and it's actually ended up where they're deducting more percentage-wise than what they were previously on the calibration. So, what I also want to point out, and I know we talked about when we did the cost of service study, this was something that we took into account for, as well as these changes in these deducts that we're now seeing, because we really don't have a good handle, because we've been as zero when we didn't allow it, to 25% deduct, now to, I think it's like 60%, 70% in some months, based on the deduction that is not going into the sewer. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. Row 26, the total operating expenses is just over $1 million versus a budget of 1.25, or 238,000 under budget, which brings us down to row 37. The net income from operations is 242,000 versus a budget of 36,000, or 206,000 favorable. Again, the favorable variance is due to the under budget operation and maintenance, and that's just the timing of some of the expenditures that are going out.
Questions on sewer? Okay, all right, so that's it. We will move on to 690, which is city budget presentations. This is informing.
again, through October, everything in the general fund, department-wise, is in line with where it should be year-to-date. I will point out, there is one that's already over budget, which is citizens participation. After this report was run, I did speak with Director Hill. There was Big Daddy Racing was charged to this account, which should have been charged to the Parks and Rec account for that, which will bring this account back in line with the budgeted amount. It's just something that's always been budgeted in the Parks and Rec department, and it just got miscoded. So that will fix the overvariance in that line. The other one that it's gonna look a little out skewed based on where everybody else is at 70 to 80% is, again, the Parks and Rec budget, where that's at 58% remaining. And again, that's due to the seasonal nature of that department, where a lot of the expenses occur in the fall, the summer to fall, as well as some capital projects that have been earmarked, the scoreboards and so such things as that. So that's why that is skewed. There's nothing that's out of line that looks like it's gonna drive it over budget at this point. And then with that, the last one or two other ones is the general insurance. Again, that's due to the one-time big expense that gets charged out. That's why that one is at 42%. And then the same with the debt service. It's just the timing of the debt service payments, and that's why that's at the 55%. So you can see all the other ones are right in line with that mid 75% to 90% remaining.
Councilor Piazza.
Thank you. So when you were saying about the citizens' participation, that it should have been billed over to Parks and Rec, so the conversation we had earlier, so is that just a simple thing? Is that something we gotta reprove because it's already been billed or taken out of that budget and now it's gotta be moved? Just
No.
trying to catch this.
Yep, no,
at
it
time.
was just a coding
Okay,
error.
so it's
that
just a coding fix in
when
the
it went
computer.
when it went through the approval process.
Okay.
Because this is new. This is not, let me rephrase that. It's new to Parks and Rec, this line. This was handled previously by the former clerk, and then it got switched over. The decision was made, it made more sense that Parks and Rec kind of oversees City Day, just as Parks and Rec is, it's kind of where it falls into their bucket. So they had always charged that expenditure off, and it just got miscoded to this
Okay.
line here, which is really for the food and the other things that get,
Just
where
trying to,
their tent rental and the bigger things, but.
yeah, just trying to prevent a
Yep.
big discussion and voting later.
Yep, no, this is truly just a clerical, when it got
Okay.
coded, it just got coded to the
All
wrong
right,
account. And
thank
then
you.
when we ran this, it got picked up that it
Thank
should have
you.
been.
Okay, any questions on the city budget? Okay, let me double check. Looks like we are done. I will take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you.